Well, what is up, everybody? And welcome back. Dork Discourse is back. Long time no freaking see, friends.
Ladies and
Shout
gentlemen,
out. Shout out to the early gang. Shout out Charlie, Daddy Josh, Alice, Stanley's Bird Church. Who else was here? Sean. We had some other
whole crew,
friends. Patrick. I think I
whole crew's been
saw.
hanging out.
I see Kevin Lance, Simply, Nick Gundy, Zach, Matthew. Let's go. Everybody's hanging out. Alaric, what's up? The return of Dork Discourse. Yes, it's been a long, hot freaking minute. But as you guys know, we had to put things on pause for the duration of the SAG-AFTRA and WGA strikes, which were recently resolved. Luckily, WGA got resolved a while ago, SAG-AFTRA very recently, last week. And unfortunately, the timing, it was obviously great news, but unfortunately, the strike literally was lifted the day before Tom and I actually were leaving the country to go on our honeymoon. So that's why we're doing, we didn't immediately hop right back into Dork Discourse, but I did publish my obviously incredibly delayed Ahsoka reactions for you guys to enjoy until we could all rally and finally talk about it together.
Yes.
Long awaited, and I'm more, granted, obviously I haven't been able to interact with you guys and get your guys live. We haven't been able to do Dork Discourse during the duration of the show like we usually do, so neither of us have been able to really hear your guys' opinions and hear what everyone is thinking about the show, the community, the fandom. And so obviously that I'm extremely curious to hear. I'm more curious than ever to know what you guys are thinking, because I really felt like isolated from you guys, just filming the reactions and then not being able to post them and then converse with you guys like we usually do in our typical fashion show. So we're both really curious to hear everyone's thoughts, especially now that in typical Star Wars fashion, I think the pattern is usually a series will end, everyone's on a high, everyone kind of has rose-colored glasses, everyone's feeling really good, and then a few months goes by and people start to share their thoughts, and I really started to see some unfiltered thoughts after the SAG strike was lifted, and people like myself, who had been withholding from discussing struck media, were finally sharing their opinions online. And it seems like, what? Use the mouse, please.
Nope,
Use the
don't
mouse.
worry about it. Just keep talking.
Use the mouse.
Just keep talking.
It seems like people are a little bit divided. Wait. Oh God.
Don't
Excuse the fire. Excuse the fire. It's hard to not excuse the extremely loud fire engine that's going on. But yes, anyways, what are you doing?
Don't worry about it. Just keep talking.
Are you adjusting the volume?
No, don't worry about it. Keep talking.
Tom's tinkering behind the scenes with all of our settings that are seemingly fine. And it's hard. It's hard when I don't know what you're doing. Anyway, so we really wanted to just sit down and finally be able to discuss all things Ahsoka. There obviously will be spoilers, but let's be real, I feel like more than ever, I feel like Star Wars fans have no threshold anymore for waiting period before they're willingly kind of like safely able to go online and not see spoilers. People were freaking spoiling the flip out of this show. Like, I would finish an episode and then immediately go on Twitter just to see what other people were saying, and people were spoiling the flip out of these episodes within 5 minutes of the the show ending, so like, or the episode ending for the week. So I think it's safe to say, no spoiler warnings necessary at this point, since everyone and their mother has probably seen the show, and even if you've not, the fandom did not hold back from spoiling the living shiz out of it. So yes, but noted, in case you've not seen the show, but I'm sure most of us have. Thank you guys for watching my very, very delayed reactions that I was so nervous we're gonna get like 2 views maximum because they were so after the fact. But I really enjoyed some of your guys' insights saying that it kind of added a new element of fun to watch me like panic and make predictions and be angsty about the show in a kind of hindsight context now that everyone had already seen the show. So, and granted, it also was fun to edit the reactions with all of the knowledge of how the series ended as well. So thank you guys for even watching those, because I really did not think they were going to perform very well since it's so late. But I think now this gives us a good time. It's been enough time. It's been a good buffer that we can all share. Obviously, you know, I don't want to say unfiltered, but y'all know the drill. I love to hear your guys' opinions, whether you agree or disagree with us. And some of you already vocalized it very respectfully in the comments, which is all I ask. You know, if you didn't like the show, I do want to hear. Oh my god. I do want to hear your guys' opinions. Sorry, Tom's distracting me.
Doesn't make sense. Why?
I don't know.
We're good.
YouTube's glitching out. I do want to hear your guys' thoughts, whether you agree or disagree. Sorry, there's a lot going on behind the scenes, hence why, you know, I'm very disjointed right now. First, DORK Discourse back, and we can't function properly.
Literally nothing.
No, it's not fine.
Look at me moving the mouse, and you're.
No, Tom, you're not just moving the mouse. You're pointing, you're doing things. There was
stuff in the chat, and I was investigating, and I can investigate behind the scenes. You don't need to stop. You don't need to.
That's all I need to know. I just want to know what you're doing. Just say I'm doing recon on the audio. Oh my god!
Because I don't want to interrupt the flow of the conversation.
All right, well,
it's all about keeping the flow. It's all about keeping the flow.
Do you want to make a quick announcement regarding some of the new setup? I know you've been waiting. We haven't been in this room for a while, folks, and during the interim period where we were on hiatus there, not making content, Tom did a little bit of renovating that he wanted to, you guys might already see, perhaps, but he has it a little bit.
Yeah, as Catherine has said, there hasn't been a live stream or any type of public video before the reactions in this room in like 7 or 8 months since the strike began. So there has been some upgrades, some minor, some significant. So to show you the upgrades, could a member please type a color command in the chat? And you shall pretty soon see one of the significant upgrades that has made its way into the room.
And hello to everyone who has trickled in. Jay, Preston, Sal, Matthew, Alice, the Sabersmith, T-Money! Let's go, gang is all here! Stanley's, I think we might have shouted you guys out. Andrew. Oh yeah, also there is big news about Dave Filoni's promotion to CCO at Lucasfilm, which I'm sure many people have thoughts on. But yes, in case you guys, Charlie knows, you gotta type an exclamation point. Oh, it changed, yes! We replaced our little twinkly lights for some legit lighting that you guys can control. So it's synced up with this little thing that you guys may recall, members, that you were able to control this little lamp here, but we decided to swap out our little OG twinkly lights that used to adorn the top of the screen. And please do not tweak that. Please don't touch.
Just talk. Stop worrying about what I'm doing.
Yes, but you don't know what you're doing with that, so please don't. Anyway. So yes, Tom, it was a one-day project. Tom conceived the idea. He wanted to replace and add some legit new lights that our members could control. So it's the same concept as it is with this little dome over here. You guys can type exclamation point in any color, members. Yes, look! Oh my god! And it's so much cooler than this little thing was fun, but that's way cooler that you guys can really control some of the main lighting in the background here. So yes, that is open to you guys, to you members. But other than that, other than our introductory long time no see, good to see you guys. Tom and I are fresh back from our honeymoon. That's why we're looking all tan, but we couldn't wait to finally rally with you guys and see what everyone's been thinking. So, without further ado, we don't really have any sort of structure for this necessarily, or points that we wanted to touch on, but I think it would be fun to just go off of, if you guys want to share thoughts in the chat, just overall thoughts on.
Well, why don't you give your overall thoughts?
Well, I like to hear other people. Listen, I'm such a sponge when it comes to like Star Wars. It's tough because, all right, here's my thoughts because I really wanted to hear from you guys following specifically the kind of resurgence of everyone. There's been a mini Ahsoka renaissance on Twitter now that people who've been kind of in hibernation in the creator realm have been able to openly share their opinions now that the SAG-AFTRA strikes have been resolved. So there was a bit of a resurgence, you know, Ahsoka was kind of trending again as people were sharing their kind of several month removed opinion on the show now that it has been a while. And I will say that that is kind of how things work for me as well when I watch. It's kind of been a theme for my personal viewing experience with a lot of the Disney Plus shows, that as I'm actively watching them, I'm like, whoa, I love this. It's amazing. And then I give it a few months and revisit it maybe with like a fresh lens and realize like, okay, I see some of the things, some of the critiques that I have more clearly because I'm not actively watching the show, just thirsting for an episode week after week on that high. So that is typically how I operate, I feel like. But that has not been the case for me with this show. I feel like Ahsoka was consecutively really phenomenal. I really, really kind of loved the whole thing, finale included, and so that's why I'm particularly interested to hear what you guys have to say. Not like as a change my mind or something like that, but just because I've since returned to Twitter and seen people who are usually really positive, you know, not to assign titles. Because honestly, I feel like a lot of the positive people in the fandom have segued towards not. I don't know. Your opinion does not make you positive or negative, but a lot of people who are typically align with my same perspective of the newer Disney Plus material are not seemingly fans of the show and had some more critiques about it. Which is why I'm just especially curious to hear what you guys have to say, because I that seemed to be what I just deduced from the social media space. Everyone's a little bit, people either really loved it or had really major qualms. But yeah, Daddy Josh, I think I agree. It's hands down my favorite live action show so far. It really, I think it will, in terms of consistency, consistently really well written, character driven. You know, about focus on the relationships, the stakes, and the success of being able to literally bring back one of the biggest characters in the franchise, Anakin Skywalker, but then in the very same show introduce all these new exciting, you know, the new planets, the Mother Talzin, I keep calling them that, the grandmothers, the Dathomirian lore, all of that stuff with the Night Sisters, Thrawn, like, in the same breath of bringing back Anakin Skywalker, they were able to still open the door to so much more, and I really felt like for the first time, maybe since Andor, that I was like, I'm watching something so fresh and new in Star Wars, in spite of the fact that these are all legacy characters and this is like a continuation of Rebels. But that's what I thought the show was so successful in that way, that some of the highlights of the show for me weren't even just Anakin Skywalker, you know what I'm saying? I feel like some of the other Disney Plus shows have thrived solely from the cameos. That's maybe like a bold statement. You know what I'm saying? The cameos do a lot of heavy lifting, I feel like, in recent Star Wars history, versus Anakin. Yes, his incorporation in the show was freaking, obviously, you all saw my reaction, but like, that wasn't even necessarily even the highlight peak point of the show for me, which I think is really impressive. And I appreciate that they found that balance between it's not just fan service and oh, Anakin left and that was the show tanked after that. Like, no, like I thought things kept getting better and better and better consistently each week. So that's my overall thoughts. I think in terms of consistency, character arcs and bringing things full circle for the characters, each of their individual journeys. I feel like it was like one of my favorite to consistently watch week to week. So yeah.
You know, speaking of cameos, John Blake coming in with the excellent suggestion of a Boss Nat spin-off show.
Yes, John, thank you.
John, you're absolutely right.
Thank you for the super chat, my friend.
There is one glaring hole in cameo space between all the Star Wars shows, and it is the fact that there's been no Boss Nass. So, John, I'm with you. Totally with you. Thank you for your super chat. And you tested the super chat light changing colors.
Oh, yeah. Wait, what did
it was
do?
working.
Let's go.
It goes.
Oh, that's right.
Dark. It turns them off, and then goes between yellow and red a few times. Then goes back to black, and then resets to the last color. So, John, you've proven our super chat special alert lights are working. So, shout out to you.
Shout out, John.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Yeah, I'm pretty much on the same boat as you, I think. I forget who it was. Someone had a great point earlier. And I don't know who it was. It might have been Sabersmith. I think it was Sabersmith. Maybe. Anyway, said something along the lines of, it's the most consistent, continuous story.
Yes.
Meaning from week to week, it's just one major story thread line through the whole thing, which totally agree with. A lot of the other shows, you know, I mean, there's been memes about Mando saying, "Oh, what's our planet of the week? What planet are we going to land on and do whatever, and then leave the planet and then go to another planet the next episode, and like little side quests and things." But this one, there's no side quests. I mean, it's one continuous story all the way through. And the end, it's like when I first watched the end, I was like, "What? This doesn't really give any type of closure at all. It just, it's like, okay, this isn't an ending. This is a full setup for whatever is yet to come, and the stakes have never been higher. I mean, bringing in the Mortis gods and everything, like it was a steady trajectory upwards with no dips. One continuous story, which is fantastic because we haven't really had that yet. I mean, Kenobi show, you could argue, yes, but I mean the couple
There's still
episodes where,
diversions.
yeah, it's like they go. I mean, Leia gets captured 3 times. Obi-Wan has to save her 3 times, so it's like, you know, you could argue there's some dips there when if you think of the main storyline as Obi-Wan confronting Vader, there's some back and forth there. Yeah. So yeah, I think story-wise, yeah, fully all the way through one consistent storyline, which is great. It's consistency that is really nice to see.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think like there's definitely a couple moments that I was like trying to think about it, particularly the whole World Between Worlds and Ahsoka falling off the cliff, and it's like, did she die? Did Anakin just straight up pull her in the World Between Worlds? Did she actually die and then he saved her? Was the World Between Worlds like actually real? Was it a dream? Like, was just in the moment seeing that for the first time, like those were all things that were just spinning through my head. I was just trying to make sense of it.
Yeah, you had more questions
which is
than
an endless pit of an endless rabbit hole that you're never going to find yourself out of if you start thinking about that. But I mean, really, I thought everything else was really well done, really put together, really consistent.
There is one thing I want to talk about as a group, but before, Charlie, sorry we missed this. Another milestone. Let's go. 26 months of membership. Holy flip. And I swear,
Charlie.
members, I swear I will be doing a members only stream soon. We have to make up for it. I announced this in my Outlast streams, but in case you weren't there, I kind of dipped off the channel for a little bit. We got married, And then stuff happened, like, you know, life was busy. We had our wedding, and I kind of like neglected the crap out of the channel, but I also couldn't be actively posting, and it kind of just made me sad to think about the channel. So I have been neglecting you guys, members specifically. I swear, stay tuned. We're going to be doing like a 10-hour members only stream to make up for it soon. But thank you, Charlie, for 26 months of your loyalty and friendship in honor of Ahsoka. Remember, I hugged. Yes, the legendary Chosen One. Yes, Charlie had the summer of a lifetime and got to meet the Chosen One himself, Hayden Christensen. But
Yes, Charlie, you're a beast.
on the note of the Chosen One, one qualm that I did see people raising that I don't necessarily know how to handle and how I feel about it is a lot of people were very salty that Anakin would appear to his apprentice versus to his own son. We never got to see anything like that, you know. In the sequel trilogy.
They're saving that. Yeah. The
Wait,
sequel
wait,
trilogy, yeah.
what? What? Explain.
Yeah,
They're
it was the
saving
whole
that?
sequel trilogy a letdown because Anakin wasn't in it. Yes, absolutely. This show delivered the moment we've been waiting for forever, which is Anakin's Force Ghost in real time, post original trilogy era. At the very ending shot, I mean, that's the moment that people were expecting to happen at some point in the sequels to tie everything together. Have Anakin, Yoda, Obi-Wan, like the Force Ghosts appear to the current generation of Jedi, whether it's Rey or whoever. The sequel trilogy didn't deliver that. But we will 1000% get Anakin talking to Luke. 1000%.
Okay, wait.
We're gonna get it. We
wait.
haven't gotten it yet, but there's no shot we're not gonna get it. They already set it up in Book of Boba Fett. They already set it up.
Okay. But this is coming from you who said we were gonna be getting Force Ghost Council in Ahsoka. Did you say that? You
The
said
show's not over.
Okay, true, but there's been no announcement. Does anyone know? I think it's
They haven't worked on it because the writers' strike and whatnot.
But I haven't even
saw a whole
seen.
bunch of stuff today about Dave Filoni working on the scripts for Ahsoka season 2.
All right, so it's like
Yeah,
loosely confirmed.
Star Wars hasn't officially announced it. but
Sean, welcome to the master
working on
level.
it.
Let's
Sean.
go. Let's go. Your skin is glowing, Kat. Thank you, Alice. It's because we just got back. We're both super like sunburnt and are dry from like our vacation.
Tan.
And so I literally slathered Vaseline all over my face because my skin is so dehydrated from just being in the sun for the past week. So that's why. That plus a ring light does a lot of heavy lifting. So thank you. Leia Rose, what's up? But yeah, and my thoughts on that are also like, why is that the fault of... Don't fault Dave Filoni for having the idea. You know, I feel like this is going to be a recurring issue that we're about to run into with Star Wars forever, for the rest of time, as long as they're making content from here on out. There's a lot of different... I don't want to say cooks in the kitchen, but it obviously started as George Lucas's original vision, and now a lot of other artists and creators and writers and storytellers have input their own vision, their own stories, you know, infused their own idea of what it means to be Star Wars. So Star Wars has so many different, you know, Star Wars for Tony Gilroy looks so different compared to like Dave Filoni Star Wars,
that's
you know.
fine for shows.
No, I'm saying
but you can't do that for the sequel trilogy and have 15 different people coming in and they don't even have a continuous storyline.
No, I'm just saying though, it's not the fault of... I don't mind that so much because it's like, well, Dave Filoni had the idea. Like, I can't fault him for choosing to incorporate the Force Ghost of Anakin when another writer didn't want to pursue that route, you know? It's like, from here on out with Star Wars, some writers are gonna go down that road or take that risk or do what they want to do. Others might go a different direction, but it's the cross-referencing. There's just gonna be so much material from here on out that it's just kind of like, I don't want to keep pitting things against the sequels, you know? Like, I don't know.
I don't know where you're going with this.
Like, why? I don't know. I genuinely, I see where people are coming from, but I don't see that as a I see where people are coming from when they are expressing that they really liked Hayden's, cameo, Anakin's cameo, but they're...
See, calling it a cameo
All right, whatever.
is even...
Let me try to finish what I'm saying. I don't know, it's not a cameo because he's such a critical part of Ahsoka's, story.
You can't call the main character
And he
of
had-
Star Wars a cameo.
And he had more of a relationship, obviously, with Ahsoka. No offense. Yes, Luke is his biological son, but he had more relations with Ahsoka than he ever had with Luke.
Yeah.
So I don't see it as a slight to oh, how could they have Anakin? People feel like they can't enjoy his appearance to the fullest because in the back of their minds they're like, this is hard to believe because why would he appear here to her now in her lowest state when he never even appeared to his son that we know of?
Well, this is also 5 years after Return of the Jedi. He appears to his son at the end of Return of the Jedi. If you've never seen Episode 6 of Star Wars, he literally, Ewoks are munching on Stormtrooper bones, and he shows up and appears to his son.
Anyway,
and they look at each other. There's no dialogue, which the dialogue piece and the talking and the communication is what we've been looking for. But between that moment and where Ahsoka is, there's 5 years of canon, 5+ years at this point, because this takes place after Mando Season 2. So Mando Season 1 is 5 years. Mando Season 2 is a little bit after that. Mando Season 3 is a little bit more after that. So this could be 6 years after Return of the Jedi. And we know that Luke and Ahsoka know each other and acknowledge who Luke's father is. They're setting it up to believe that Luke and Anakin have spoken to each other. So.
All right, we'll hold you to that. Zach, sorry you won't be able to stick around. Good to see you for just a little bit.
What's up,
yeah, sorry. I get notifications now when they insert ads. I swear I picked the conservative setting where you would hopefully get less ads, but we'll see. Apologies in advance. I think I said this during my Outlast streams, but they kind of YouTube changed around how ads work for live streaming. So I apologize. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Let's see what people have said in the chat. I said I wanted to hear from you guys and then kind of went on a tangent. Daddy Josh, yes, hands down my favorite live action show. Episodes 5 and 6 were definitely my favorites. They were brilliant. I feel like it's the most complete story we've gotten since Mando. I agree.
Yeah, so it was Sabersmith. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
It was amazing to see Hayden, and it was so fantastic and amazing to see the Clone Wars too. Yes. Absolutely loved it. Oh, rats, I lost it. Got me more interested in Star Wars than before. Wow, Stephanie, that's amazing. That's incredible.
That's fantastic.
That's really exciting.
Yeah, that's great. And I agree. I mean, I think just this appeals to a more general audience of, I mean, looking at the trailer, I mean, there's sabers, there's space battles, there's creatures, it just looks like, wow, what is all this? Yeah, like the trailers coming out for the show. It's like, you don't know who any of the characters are. But
I was gonna say.
But it's like, okay, lightsabers, the Force, Master, Apprentice. I mean, they released the trailer with Anakin, which is like the greatest trailer ever. And all the flashbacks to all the different masters and whatnot. It's like, I mean, Star Wars marketing, they don't put any of that on TV really for any of the shows. Like for the movies, they would actually take care of cable broadcasts and actually advertise there, versus now it's just all through social media, it seems like, for the shows.
And they really freaking stepped up their marketing as they had to with the strikes and everything, actors and whatnot not being able to aid in that department. But it's one thing I was genuinely curious about. For those who'd never watched Clone Wars or Rebels, I would beg to defer that this would appeal to the larger audience. And I think everyone on my channel has watched Rebels and Clone Wars, but I was genuinely curious, what is everyone... If you have not seen either of those shows, what do you think? Julian, member for 22 months. Let's go. Hi, Cat and Tom, just dropping in to say hi. Well, hello to you. Good to see you.
What's up, Julian?
Hope to see you soon. We're going to do a very, very overdue members-only stream, so... Excuse me. I hope you will be there. Oh, wow, yes, I'm actually going to watch the animated series now. Let's go, awesome. Stephanie. Okay, that's actually interesting. That's a good point. I feel like the show probably actually prompted if people didn't watch those shows to go and watch them. Um, so happy we finally get to talk about Ahsoka. I know. I know. I loved how Ezra didn't need a lightsaber. He was just able to connect to the Force so well. Yeah, thoughts, guys. Thoughts. I will say one of my biggest, I don't even want to call it a critique necessarily, but just something I was craving more of from the show. Once Ezra got introduced, I feel like he kind of was like a background character. I don't know. I wish there had been more of him. I just feel like I don't know. I'm hoping there's a season 2 because I think they set him up for, appearing, having a larger role now that he's not stranded on this deserted planet, by himself, the whole galaxy away. But I don't know. That's one thing. If I were to, it's not even a complaint. It's just I would have loved to see more of him because he was phenomenal. I thought the casting was great for him and Sabine, their dynamic and whatnot. And so I would like to see, I hope if there is a season 2, I'm assuming there is, even though I feel like they've seemingly been very tight-lipped. I've not seen this news that you've seen about them writing, allegedly working on the script or whatnot, but the way things ended off, there flippin' needs to be a season 2. I feel like season 1 finale was like planting total seeds for it, so I think it did justice to Rebels. The Sabine and Ezra casting were very spot on, in my opinion. Hera grew on me over the course of the show as well. I agree. I didn't know how I felt about her out of the gate. And don't get me, I say that as a Mary Elizabeth Winstead fan, but I feel like once they revealed more of her character, and more of the fight that she has in her, she was amazing. It was like, frick yeah, this is Hera. Like, she will stop at nothing. And I really liked that they tapped into that for her, in spite of the fact that, she did what she could on her front. So I enjoyed that. I saw a couple of comments from people who hadn't seen Clone Wars and Rebels and just didn't get why people were so hyped for the characters from those shows. That makes sense. But I feel like they did a really good job of setting up, giving some context and some background if you had no idea who those characters were and their relationships. I feel like they really leaned into establishing the relationship of Sabine and Ezra and the kind of desperation to see him again, the mystery, the fact that she would literally risk the state of the entire galaxy to reunite with him and, to even have the possibility of bringing him back. I think they did a really good job of, stressing that so that their reunion was really special and emotional, even if you didn't have prior knowledge of the two of them from Rebels. I feel like, I don't know, I'd be curious if that struck people emotionally who didn't watch the animated series, but for Thrawn's, I freaking thought that was, one of the best parts of the show. Thrawn, the setup for Thrawn's reveal was so freaking good. I think that's one of my favorite moments of the whole show. Still gives me chills when I rewatch that. His introduction, so well handled. I feel like that anyone, whether you watched Rebels or not, there was a lot of weight in that moment, and you could really grasp, okay, this is the big dogs here, the big leagues. So yeah, keeping fingers crossed for season 2. I know. Hopefully. Where are we? Oh, bye, T-Money. Sorry,
T-Money.
losing track of the chat. Peace out, Sal.
Later,
Good to
Sal.
see you. Thrawn's ship rising over the temple was epic. It seriously was.
Yep.
It was. It was one of the best parts of the whole show. Thrawn. Right? Them just chanting his name, his opening line. Literally thank Jesus that Lars Mikkelsen reprised his role, because I said it during my reactions like a broken record, but it would have been an entirely different show if it wasn't him, if it wasn't his voice.
Yeah.
No offense to any other actor, but he's just He just is. Nobody. I don't think anyone else could have done it. Finally got some cool looking stormtroopers. They were nasty looking. The zombified ones. That was really cool though. That whole sequence watching them come back, and when we got that glimpse, the one was like going to strangle Sabine, and they showed like its helmet was broken because I think she'd blasted it, so you could see a little bit of the face poking through, and it was like the creepiest thing I've ever seen, but it was so cool. It was so cool. Thrawn walking down the aisle of the middle of all the zombified troopers. Yes, that like
Yeah.
chills even just reading that and thinking about it. It was really, really, really. I thought his return and introduction was really well handled. And that is one thing I feel like. Another thing I really liked about this show is. Yes, it had a very consistent storyline, very consistent arc, didn't really stray from the main issue at hand, the main conflict and everything. And the fact that they, from the out of the gate, even though he's off screen, he's not, he's not necessarily involved. But even with all the others, like, out of the gate, they established Thrawn as a big bad, as a huge threat. But even everybody else, his, I don't want to say puppets, but Morgan Elsbeth, Baylan, Shin, like, there were immediate threats, immediate antagonists, if you will, although I, like, hesitate to use that name to describe Baylan now that the show is complete, but as soon as the show starts, you know who the bad guys are. You know who the threat is, and when Thrawn is introduced, they stick with him, and you really do see like how big of a deal he is, and how disastrous this would be if he gets back to like they raised the stakes about when it comes to the cost of what would happen to the galaxy if he were to return, to the point of when they did beam back, it honestly felt like the Thanos snap. Maybe not as grand, but it was like, okay, well, the whole thing we were trying to avoid happened, and oh shiz, it's irreversible, and we know we kind of have a little bit of hindsight, knowing like the galaxy does descend into the realm of the First Order and whatnot. So we know in the future that things fall apart and turn bad again. So as much of a like, oh shoot, it happened moment it still is kind of like, well shoot, we know what's gonna happen from here on out. So like, point I'm trying to say is I love that the show established who the villains were, what the conflict was, raised the stakes freaking like right out of the gate, versus I feel like all the other Disney Plus shows, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but I feel like a lot of them don't tap into who the bad guys are, what the conflict is, until tail end. Like Mando, Moff Gideon, I'll say it because I don't think it's bad to say, and I would say it to anyone. I feel like they wasted him. Like Moff Gideon, like Giancarlo Esposito, like he would only appear in like 2 episodes per season, and then right as he was getting cool and we got his motives and everything that he has been working on in the behind the scenes.
He's not actually dead.
Oh my goodness. Well, maybe. I don't know. Point is, even if he's not dead, even if we're gonna play into that theory that he cloned himself and that wasn't even actually him, I still feel like I'm always craving more, and he doesn't feel like that big of a threat, even though he is commanding and has this great presence.
No, he
but
doesn't. You're right. He
the
doesn't feel
stakes
like a
are
big
not
threat. No.
high when it comes to his character, and I wish there was more of him, and they only ever show him in like the last 2 episodes. Listen, Andor's like my freaking favorite of the live action shows. So I don't mean this as a qualm with any of them. It's just my personal observation and thoughts. Andor, the overarching threat, is obviously the figure of the Empire. And, the Emperor looming in the back. So, like, yeah, there is a good guy, bad guy kind of stance there. Book of Boba Fett, who even more, the Pikes, I guess, are the bad guys.
Yeah, well, that's
like,
a problem. There is no... there has been no main overarching villain.
Yes.
I mean, still in this time period, it's still Palpatine. None of the shows have addressed it. Thrawn is still the underneath Palpatine because Palpatine's done and planning on Exegol and doing all that stuff. So I mean, it's the whole. It goes back to the same issue of creating movies after Return of the Jedi. It's like Palpatine was the main villain for the original 6 movies. It's like, what story is there to tell after those 6 movies if your main villain has been defeated and the Sith have been defeated? The Chosen One fulfilled the prophecy, defeated the Sith. What's the new villain going to be? What's that new villain that would top and the villains of the previous movies and continue the story? And that's a nearly impossible thing to come up with, unless you either use the same villain, which is ultimately what ended up happening, the whole contingency plan, and Palpatine's still involved, even though that wasn't established until the final movie of the trilogy. So it's the same thing with the shows. It's like, okay, you have these sub villains like Moff Gideon, who's the same faction as Palpatine, the Empire. You have Thrawn, which is still the same faction as Palpatine, the Empire, and he's saying for the Empire, so like he's clearly still fighting for the Empire. So it's like even Thrawn is still technically a subordinate of Palpatine, which we still haven't. Obviously the cloning, they're working on that. They're pulling those threads and everything.
I did love that when Ezra was getting a recap of everything that he had missed from the past decade from Sabine, and he was like, so the Emperor's really dead? And she said, that's what people say.
Yeah.
Like, I really loved that line to kind of address, like, sure, is it maybe doing some heavy lifting to supplant the fact that somehow Palpatine returned? But I liked it and appreciated that it highlights, like, okay, at least it wasn't maybe a total surprise and people were, theorizing, or some people had doubts. Like, it wasn't like a, oh yeah, he's dead. But it was like a, that's what allegedly, I love that.
Yeah.
So sorry, continue. I just wanted to touch on, I actually really liked that, world building a little bit to suggest that not everyone necessarily maybe believed that he was gone.
Yeah. No, I think it's good. But I think that they're going to use Thrawn to help bridge that gap even more. And like, obviously if you watch Rebels, Thrawn's threat. I mean, he's the Imperial Grand Admiral that's essentially leading the Imperial effort besides Vader and Palpatine prior to him getting whaled out of the galaxy, which is why he's not in the original trilogy. So like, clearly he's a big player, but even still, he's not in any type of live action movie appearance or anything. He's not like Tarkin, who was, albeit brief, at the very end of Revenge of the Sith, obviously in A New Hope. He was the previous main bad in the Empire besides Vader and Palpatine. So it's like, they're bringing Thrawn, they're setting him up, but even still, like, I have the feeling, someone had a good comment, J-Pat, your thoughts about Thrawn and the troopers chanting his name and all that stuff. It's like, I think they're working and doing a good job with what they have in using Thrawn and setting him up to be this huge threat to the whole galaxy. But you're right, them like chanting his name, it's like, would Thrawn, I don't think Thrawn requested, say, hey, I'm gonna walk out there, like give him a pep talk, be like, listen, I'm gonna walk out there, you all need to chant my name for intimidation purposes. Like, I don't think he told him to do it. I think they just did it. But still, like, it was a little strange. And even still, the whole show was setting it up to be like, how big is the threat of Thrawn? What's the real risk here if Thrawn returns? And it's like, okay, well, we see he has one Star Destroyer. He's got a legion of Night Sister, Death Stormtrooper, zombie people. But still, it's only one ship full of people. It's like, you watch even through Clone Wars, Rebels, the prequels, originals, like, this is a whole galaxy. One ship with one person should have pose no real threat or anything to the greater galaxy as a whole.
But that's valid. However, I think they recognize that people would see it that way and question how is one person going to come back and obliterate everything. But I think that's why they planted and emphasized like there are a lot of like traitors amongst them, people, conspiring to overthrow, people, not loyal to the New Republic, people still loyal to the Empire. So like I feel like if all of those people get word that he's back, he has, it's not like he's acting on his own. There are people who've been working within the New Republic who would immediately turn at word that he's returned.
Yeah, and I think that's probably another, not complaint, but I think something that I wish would have happened in the finale was not just seeing them get back to the Star Wars galaxy and go to Dathomir, but actually like seeing what the true scale and size of the threat is. Right? Like kind of how in The Force Awakens, it's like first order, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. You don't really take them serious until they destroy multiple planets in a second in the Core Worlds, and they like wipe out the governing Hosnian Prime planet of the galaxy. And it's like, okay, that kind of sets the stage. It's like, okay, well, these guys are an actual serious threat.
They mean business.
I think the scale issue is like, okay, is it just one planet killing thing? Like where like the world building and the political side, like that. I mean, that's one of the main things I love about the prequels is it really says like it's a whole galaxy. There's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of systems, and it takes a ton of resources and a ton of ships and a ton of personnel and a massive army to control all of that. And so it's like, after seeing all that, if you see that stuff, it's like, okay, this guy Thrawn, he's got some baggy pants, they're chanting his name, he's got some zombies, he's got one ship. What kind of threat does he really pose? So I think if they would have given us a true tease as to the scale, which I hope there's a lot more scale. Like if they go to Dathomir and it's like in the entire planet, they resurrect the entire planet of Dathomir, and they've got an entire civilization of Night Brothers and Night Sisters.
God.
And it's not just one ship, but it's hundreds or thousands of ships. Like just seeing a tease of something like that would be like instantly just everybody would be made very clear this guy's not messing around. He's got a true galactic scale army that can actually compete and, like the Separatists, actually go over and take over the galaxy. Now, to be devil's advocate to that, the New Republic is clearly trying to demilitarize, de-escalate, reduce staff, reduce military presence, going for peace, which we see in the sequel trilogy. It's like there's no army at all, and it's the Resistance, which is the secret, not affiliated with the Republic, but still affiliated with the Republic little band of militiants, which ultimately leads to the problems in the sequel trilogy of the First Order just being able to wipe them out. I hope we don't go into that same thing again. Like, I think it should be a real sizable, scalable threat. And obviously, if Thrawn's leading it, it's a legit threat. But I think for the audience that doesn't know what he was able to do in Rebels, if you're just coming at it to this show fresh, you're like, okay, who's this guy? He's got one ship. Why would anyone in the main galaxy really have to fear him if he's just got one ship without any background history of him? And like,
yeah.
I mean, obviously, Chancellor Mothma is saying, like, clearly she's concerned about it, so that helps kind of ramp it up. But I wish that there was a little bit more at the end that said, like, okay, here's Thrawn, here's the real threat, other than just what the Night Sisters can do. Because it's kind of like, right now at this point, it feels like all of Thrawn's fear and power and intimidation is coming through the Night Sisters. Like, if you take away the Night Sisters, it's like he's nothing. Like, his whole army's gone. He's not escaping. Nothing is happening for him without the Night Sisters. So, like, right now, he's riding that wave. I think it would have been beneficial in the long run for a little, show a little bit more of what he's actually working with, what his plan of attack is, other than just getting back to the galaxy. I just think a little more would have gone a long way. But I think that if they start off season 2 and there's a time jump or whatnot, and it's like, okay, now this is a real threat, here's what has happened, here's what's going on, then I mean, I could certainly do it. And I mean, for us, we've seen the show, so we know about Thrawn, we know what he's capable of. And we, as I'm sure most people in the chat here, have reason to believe that, yeah, Thrawn can do a lot with one troop, one ship full of people. Yeah, all right.
Nick
Rant over.
Gundy,
That was
good
quite
to
the-
see you.
That's quite the rant.
What I missed for the past 40 minutes. Chili was dope. Glad to hear it. Nothing much. We've just finally been able to share our thoughts on Ahsoka.
Yes.
I think a big takeaway is that we both love that there's like a continuous story, immediate threat, immediate conflict right out of the gate in comparison to some of the other Disney Plus shows. I saw some funny comments up here. Thrawn was stranded on that planet for a decade. All that time might have made him a little eccentric. I love that. The rumble wagon. Stanley says, I think that their chanting for him was more, for Thrawn, more fulfilling his promises of getting them back to the main galaxy, and Morgan's appearance meant they'll be going home. I kind of agree. I feel like they saw him as almost like a deity figure by that point, and the fact that he did, I guess, hook them up with the Night Sisters and the Grandmothers to utilize the magic to revive all of them or keep them going for as long as they did. So yeah, I agree with that. Where are we? Danny, sorry. Yes, you made it. It's good to see you. I didn't want to interrupt Tom, but it is good to see you, our friend. Thank you for being here. It's been a long time. No stream. It feels weird. So we were very happy to see that you guys were excited that Dork Discourse was going to be making its return. Yeah, no, I agree, because especially I think even after Thrawn, all the mention of Thrawn, and even after he originally, made his reappearance finally in the show, I think a lot of people were still questioning, well, what even is his motivation? Other than just wanting to get the flip off this planet and go back. Like, does he even want to revive the Empire? Or, like, what's his ultimate goal other than the obvious of he just doesn't want to freaking be stranded here anymore? And so they finally answered that with, he says, long live the Empire. I do agree, maybe a little, I mean, maybe just Dathomir was the tease, because I didn't think we were going to be seeing them again after they beamed away.
Yeah.
And then when they did show that was their destination, I was like, holy flip, like, what? So who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I'm still uncertain of the motivation as well, because like him just tying himself with the Empire, it's like, okay, are we just going to repeat? It's just going to be, Moff Gideon saying, oh, yep, for the Empire, let's resurrect the Empire. Like, are they all in on this secret plan to bring back Palpatine and do cloning? Like, are they all aware of that being a possibility? Like, no piece of Star Wars media has made it clear that it was widely known within the ranks of the Empire that Palpatine has his contingency plan to use cloning and Sith magic, as Merry or Pippin, whichever one was in Rise of Skywalker, says. Like, Palpatine is not dead. I mean, it seems like Thrawn would be aware, and maybe Thrawn flowed that down to the Shadow Council, which includes Gideon, and saying cloning and whatnot. But it seems like the Shadow Council is against the cloning. They think Gideon's just going to use cloning for himself. It's like, if they're questioning the cloning, then do they even know the true intentions of what the cloning would be used for? Assuming that the whole intentions and purpose of the cloning at that time has always been related to bringing Palpatine back. Mary, thank you, Stanley. If not, then that even raises more questions, and I really don't hope that they go that route. It's like, oh, we finally got it to work, and then it's like, someone just happens to be like, oh, I know what we could use this for. 30 years later, we can bring back Palpatine now. Like, I hope it's not just an impromptu, like, whoa, we can clone now? We can clone Force users? Yeah, let's try and bring back Palpatine. Like, that would make a lot of sense. I don't think that's what they're going to do. But, like, by Thrawn associating with the Empire, you are, by transitive property, associating yourself with Palpatine. And it's like, we already know the end game in Rise of Skywalker, what happens to Palpatine. So I still think they gotta, and by the time we get to The Force Awakens, it's just the First Order. And it's like, it seems like Thrawn's resurgence would have to spin into the First Order somehow. And, I don't know, it'll be interesting to see how they handle it. And how they kind of raise the stakes and raise the pressure, to see how it competes.
Well, I imagine that'll all be hopefully addressed in Dave Filoni's film, right? I mean, yeah. I'm viewing it now that we've seen Ahsoka and we know where he's setting things up to go. I'm viewing his film as like a mediator, connector between all of these shows, this era, currently that we're getting, Book of Boba Fett, Mando, all of that, and, you know, the kind of median between this era and the sequel era, I imagine. Ooh, excuse me. My only question is, how is Ahsoka gonna be able to escape? Who knows? Who knows? I have no clue now. I don't think anyone's gonna be able to go back.
Yeah, the whole ending is really interesting, and I think that is. I think they left it off that way because I think they left it kind of ambiguous. What is the main threat? What's going to be the state of the galaxy going forward? Because obviously, for those who know Mortis, you know, those who control Mortis essentially control the Force and the galaxy, right? They're like the all-being Force masterminds of the galaxy. They kind of control everything, right? So it's like, if you have a conflict there, that has instant ramifications that apply everywhere, which answers the scale question of Thrawn with one ship going to one planet. If there is some type of Baylan, Ahsoka, Anakin conflict to the scale of the Mortis gods, that would have way more potentially devastating of an impact to the entire galaxy than anything that Thrawn could do. So what they could be doing is saying, yes, Thrawn is the intermediate villain now, because Baylan and Shin are not very relevant. Thrawn's back in the galaxy. Thrawn's someone that the New Republic government is aware of and knows. Like, that can be the smaller political conflict, but at the same time, like, the Palpatine overarching mastermind villain level contact could be at the Mortis God level, which would even go past Palpatine, technically, if you think about it. And if this boils down to, you know, however Anakin's involved, if he's the father, Ahsoka's technically the daughter, because the daughter's actually within Ahsoka, and then if Baylan's the brother, or whatever ends up happening, like, if that's like Mortis arc level conflict, I mean, that even supersedes anything that Palpatine could do. Which I hope is the route that they go, because then that really sets it up for a giant scale level conflict.
That's true.
Yeah, multiple galaxies perhaps. Yeah, Sean, exactly. With a ship that's going to need fuel soon. Yep, exactly. And that ship's been floating around for 10 years. I don't think there's any fuel on Peridia, right? Unless all those, they harvest the dead Purgle in orbit and pull the carbon out of that if they use carbon or whatever, coaxium, whatever fuel they use.
Fossil fuels.
Yeah.
Bird Church member for 11 months. Thank you so much, my friend. Do you think we might get a Sam Witwer appearance as the Sun?
Very interesting.
That could be cool.
Very interesting. That would be awesome. That would be very cool.
I'm honestly trying not to here I am saying, is there going to be a season 2? There needs to be. There's no way. They planted the seeds. There has to be. But I keep reminding myself it's probably going to be another like 2+ years. I don't know. At the rate, everything now with of course, a natural I don't want to say consequence, but just a natural product of the strikes being a lot of shows now are kind of delayed, or I'm just seeing everything is gonna be 2+ years away. It's the way I'm looking at it. Except for House of the Dragon, which they have different unions and whatnot, so they were able to continue filming. So that's coming up actually very, very soon. That'll be here before we know it. But here I am thinking I needed season 2, but in reality it's probably years away.
Yeah, but I think that's the power of the ending of the show is that, like, we really have no idea what is going to happen, but the fact that they made it front and clear and obvious that Mortis God level stuff is coming, and we literally left Ahsoka and Sabine trapped on this planet in this other galaxy with Anakin Ghost there and the Mortis gods and Balin and Shin. Like, we have no clue what is going to happen. But with what the pieces that they've laid out, we know that it's going to be the most impactful conflict that we've seen technically ever, because it's at literally the highest level of force that you can get as individuals, right? As entities. They're literally the literal manifestation of the force in these beings. So, like, the fact that they just threw all these major power players
all
on this one planet in this other galaxy are directly saying, "Hey, Mortis is going to be involved. We're not going to tell you what happens, but it's going to be crazy and huge implications." Like, the fact that they left it so open-ended, it's just like, we could try and theorize, we could try and guess, but all we know is that it's going to be a big deal. And now we just have to kind of wait and see what happens. And then I like that Thrawn and Ezra made it back to the main galaxy, and Hera's still there, and obviously Chancellor Mothma and the New Republic is there, because they can have that intermediate conflict. Like, okay, there's actually going to be new, like, actual up in arms movement here with an actual organized Empire reborn type faction, and the slowly withering away demilitarizing New Republic faction that have to battle it out, which fits in the storyline from original trilogy Mandoverse into the sequels, just the kind of escalating kind of faction battle versus battle. But this whole Mortis thing is an entirely new arc that we have no clue what the implications are. We have no idea how long it's going to last. We have no clue what Anakin's role is, what Ahsoka's role is. We don't know anything about it. But all we do know is that, given what Mortis stands for and the power that is held there, that's what could take us to another level of scale and conflict that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, and I've seen some questions asking, how do we think they're going to handle Balin's storyline now with all of that? And it's obviously so tragic, especially because he seemed so passionate and excited about Star Wars. I've said it before, and this is not to slight anybody, but I feel like you can tell when some people do it just for the gig, and some people actually truly really love it a lot. And I feel like this entire cast, now that they've been able to share their experience and whatnot and the fun that they had behind the scenes, like, it's clear that they all really loved this and were passionate about it. But him specifically, so it's extremely tragic. I personally, this is part of the whole debacle, the situation on the table with, the SAG-AFTRA strikes, CGI, AI now handling all of that. I personally, would you want to see him left alone as a character, CGI or recast? Somebody asked earlier, like, do we want him to just disappear? And I think that they did set it up. I hadn't considered that before, because I have been kind of questioning, like, oh, how are they going to handle this in a good, respectful way. I personally would not want to see any CGI or anything like that. I feel like a lot of people fit in that boat. Um, I don't know about recasting because he did so amazing. Like, he really made this character his own. So I just think it would just be unfair for anyone trying to come in and fill his shoes. I think audience opinion would already be pitted against them. Like, it would be a huge challenge. So somebody mentioned, like, are they just gonna make him disappear? And I hadn't considered that being a possibility, but it's actually kind of believable considering how mysterious he was being. He was being very cryptic with Shin, made it very clear, like, don't follow me, you gotta go do your own thing. So I think it's entirely plausible, actually, that could be one way that they write around it. And he does just disappear somehow, or I'm not sure. Obviously, that's for the writers to decide, and whatever decision they have to make, it's a tough one. It's obviously always a difficult situation. So
I think they could do it with one scene.
Yeah?
I think they use him for one scene, and it also helps set the scale of the power that he's possessing. Like, if there's one scene of him going through the mountains, kind of like Frodo, whatnot, marching through Mount Doom,
yes.
and it's like him hooded. You see this hooded figure walking around, going in. Then he goes to wherever this power is, and then you see, like, just a shot of CGI Ray Stevenson's face, looking at it, and then the power just completely consumes him or wipes him off the face. Like, it's just like totally overwhelming. That would set the scale of, like, okay, you need someone who is at an unmatched level of power and force sensitivity and capability to master this. Balin wasn't there. Like, that would, one, set the stage for what's to come. It would also give proper closure to Balin's character.
Mm-hmm.
Because just, I mean, writing it off and saying you disappeared, like, I feel like the only way you'd be able to figure that out is if Ahsoka goes to that same source, and that source, whether it's a Mortis god or whatever the source is, says, like, oh, you're not the first to come here.
Right.
Balin came here, and now he's no longer here, or whatever.
They do
whatever.
a little bit of dialogue, exposition. Whoops.
Yeah, like the source of the power could say, yes, this person came here. He tried to harness it.
Yeah, they could do
He's
that.
now no longer here.
Because I like what you were saying. I agree completely. I'm not opposed to that. Like what you were saying originally, a hooded figure or kind of silhouetted, like they handled Leia in The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
They had a body double. The way they used lighting so that you could tell it was a physical presence and not AI CGI, but obviously her face was dimly lit. You couldn't tell, but it still felt physically like her without using the AI and CGI. I'm fine with that. They just have a body double, keep them hooded, use lighting to keep it vague, even though it would be implied. Like, I'm okay with that. But also, like what you're saying, I think it's possible that they could do some in-script, explanation to wrap that up, or explain or something to reveal what became of him. But it is very it is sad that he did such an amazing job, and this would have been an amazing arc wherever it's going, whatever they had in store for it. So it's such a shame. But Chris House Inc., I agree completely. I think Star Wars just needs to rip that band-aid off and start recasting legacy characters if they plan on doing anything. Whoops. I lost it. If they plan on doing anything with them, get a Sebastian Stan Luke before it's too late. I agree with this entirely, especially for moments like what we had in Mando Season 2 finale. Book of Boba Fett was treading the waters a little bit for me, but, like, I do not mind it personally when it was, like, 30 seconds of Luke Skywalker, on screen. That's fine. If you're gonna have them in for an extended period of time, that's when my suspension of disbelief starts to fade a little bit. The longer they're on screen, the harder it is for me to, like, I don't know. That's when I'm in favor of recasting. Like, if you're really gonna bring back Luke Skywalker and have him be a recurring character, I'm not saying I want that to happen, but if that's where this is going, or if he's gonna be involved in the Dave Filoni movie, then flip yes, recast. Like, I believe Alden Ehrenreich as young Han Solo. Bring him back. He's on fire right now. Bring him back. He's doing amazing. Danny, thank you so much, my friend. I'm so
Danny!
I'm so glad to see you guys. I apologize if you guys already talked about this, but as of 4 hours ago, Dave Filoni, yes, is the chief creative officer of Lucasfilm, so he's one of the ones in charge of the creation of all of the content. Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome news. I definitely, you know, I feel like he's already had quite a say in, you know, as George's apprentice, but it's obviously he's in a top position now that he has a lot of say, so it's definitely exciting, and it's nice that this is coming before, you know, we're going into this next era of films here, which I'm sure he'll be heavily involved with, obviously, aside from his own, but it would be nice to see his involvement with, you know, the Rey movie that's coming out, all the other, you know, all the other films in the pipeline. That said, though, like, I love Dave Filoni, but I don't want to put all the eggs in one basket. He's obviously incredible, but I also am a fan of Jon Favreau, like all the Tony Gilroy.
It's about managing the lore. It's about managing the central story that everybody wants to tell. It's like, everybody can put different themes and tones and character choices and blah blah blah, but it's about keeping the lore under one central
consecutive
decision maker who knows the lore better than anybody else on this planet, so, and understands it better than anybody else, and is the protege of the creator of this. So I think having him in that central role is fine. One person can't make every little nitpick to story decision on all these different stories that they're trying to tell across the board. But if you get a general outline of a show, you can weigh in on and, you know, sign off on changes that are going to impact, you know, major plot lines for the story. But yeah, it's impossible for one person to be nitpicking every little story for every little show, every single episode. Like, that's way too much. He's not going to be doing that. It's going to be an oversight role. It'll be okay, here's the outline for this show. What do you think about it? You know, do you like it or not? Do you think this is good? Do you think we should change things here? And then, like, once the general outline is understood, then yeah, whoever's going to be the showrunner, whoever's going to do it, can go off and figure it out. It's kind of like Kenobi. Like, his name isn't credited anywhere in Kenobi, but even Deborah Chow and, like, behind the scenes,
he's been a consultant.
Saying, like, yeah, when originally when we were coming up with the show, it was like, oh, what do we do? Who's the villain? Blah blah blah. And Filoni's like, listen, it has to be Vader. It has to be Anakin. That's the conflict that matters in Obi-Wan, is getting over the grief of Anakin and going through that. So if Filoni wasn't involved, who knows what the villain would have been of the Kenobi show?
Well,
but it wouldn't have been as high a stakes possible as what we got, which is him confronting Anakin and Vader. So it's like, yeah, he can make those type of high level decisions, but then people like Deborah Chow, the directors, the producers, everybody else can. It takes a whole team to go with a finished product, but at least the top level decision making, trying to make sure that everything stays consistent with the bigger picture of the entire company and the whole franchise. I think that's the perfect role for him to be in. Because he knows the lore, he knows the story better than anybody else.
Yeah, I love this discourse going on with Bird Church and Charlie. Star Wars needs to use Obi-Wan and Anakin as much as possible right now, because Ewan and Hayden are currently 100% down for it. And Charlie says Hayden Christensen has said he really would love to do more as Anakin or Vader, so for the love of God, use him! Yeah, that is interesting. And I am curious, because I feel like, you know, obviously we have Ahsoka now. That was one of the next big things in the pipeline. Next up is Acolyte. Skeleton Crew, I don't freaking know what the flip is. I will believe it when I see it. I'm sorry. Skeleton Crew at this point, I'm not going to believe it.
Celebration? I think they did.
I don't know, but I don't know anything about this show, and my brain has refused to accept They've been so tight-lipped about it. They released all these trailers at Celebration. That was in freaking April. Where the frick is it for the rest of us plebes who couldn't go?
Well, they did that the Ahsoka show for a year. They showed that first Ahsoka teaser in Anaheim.
That's right.
And then they released the full thing this past Celebration. So they kept that under wraps for
anyway, all I'm saying is Skeleton Crew, I hope the best for it. I hope it doesn't sound like I'm prematurely trashing it. I just can't believe it's happening. Like, what is the deal with it? I will literally not believe it until it shows up on the Disney Plus home screen with episode 1. Like, that's when my brain will accept Skeleton Crew. But until then, obviously Acolyte is the next big thing in the pipeline. Another season of Bad Batch, and I think it's going to be the final season, right? They said they're doing the next season will be the final one, because I feel like I remember thinking, oh my god, that's so soon.
Yep.
But other than that, what else is next? You know, we went from having
3 movies. We got James Mangold movie. We've got
those are not
the
happening
Ray movie
for like 3 years from
which I forget the lady who's directing that, but
they're not happening for a while.
And then we got Dave's movie.
But in terms of the Disney Plus shows,
yeah, I'm not gonna.
There's a whole new possibility for a slate. Yeah, that's a whole other topic. I don't know what the word is for it, but it's been so long since there's been a Star Wars film in theaters. Obviously, that's not a bad thing necessarily, but Star Wars is just magic. Life is magic when it's in the movies. So the fact that it's been this long, my brain kind of still, again, can't believe that it's actually, I'll believe it when I see it, when I finally get my ticket, you know? And I don't want that to come from a place of doubt, but it's just like, it's been so long, I have to just not think about it and then wait for it to happen. But I feel like there's a whole new slate opening up now, because remember that initial timeline that they pitched that had like Mando season 3, Obi-Wan, Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, Andor. Is that 5? You know, there's now all of them are over. So it's like, all right, where's the next lineup? You know, Acolyte and Skeleton Crew.
2, the next Mando season.
Well, Ahsoka season 2 has been confirmed.
Andor season 2.
Oh yeah,
Bad Batch season 3.
I forget they're all getting second seasons, but
then the movies. I think that is actually it that they've announced, and then those 3 movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, there's been some set photos of Jude Law and the child actors. Listen, I've seen it. My brain just still doesn't believe. My brain just still doesn't believe it. I will truly, again, I really hope it doesn't sound like this is coming from a place of doubt or that I'm denying the existence of the show like a weird conspiracy theorist. My brain can't comprehend. I know nothing about this show. Yeah. I know nothing. So I just can't, I forget about it all the time until somebody's like, Skeleton Crew, and I'm like, when? Where? Yeah. How? Yeah. Who? Yeah, we know when things are coming, but when exactly exudes us for now. Spoken with such poetry, Sean. Yes, that's the current state of how things feel.
All right. My brain just went off on a mini tangent.
Okay.
I've got something wild for everybody.
Okay.
So yeah, Matthew, the Ray movie. To your point, yeah, we were kind of talking about that. We've got all those shows we talked about, but that at Celebration they announced Ray movie, James Mangold directed movie about the first Jedi 25,000 years ago, and then Dave Filoni's movie. Past, present being Mandoverse timeline, and then future, which would be the Ray movie. I was just thinking, what if all 3 of those are actually tied together? Like, directly. And the reason I think they could be is Mortis, God, going back to the Mortis gods. Like, the Mortis gods, have they been there for all time? Did the first Jedi learn to be a Jedi because the Mortis gods made a decision to try and say, hey, we need to give off the Force and let it be managed or nurtured, whatever word you want to use, under a more lower level, on a lower level balance of power. So we have the Jedi and then the Sith, and we give them, and we let them manage it to keep to evenly distribute the Force across the galaxy. And so is it the Mortis gods that led to the creation of the first Jedi? And then so that could be the first Jedi discovery revelation from James Mangold movie. Fast forward 25,000 whatever years later to Dave Filoni's movie, when the present day in Mandoverse, and now the Mortis gods are being taken over by the same humans that they gave the Force to 25,000 years ago. And so now the humans are recapturing or switching ownership or changing, impacting things at the Mortis gods level. And that's going to be a central turning point on the scale of that crazy amount of time in the galactic timeline. And then the Rey movie would be, okay, after Palpatine's gone, the last outstanding threat is trying to understand the Mortis god level, recover it, bring it back to a normal level. So Rey is working with whatever the Mortis god impact is in Filoni's movie, and she's working at that scale to help bring the peace between Jedi and Mortis god level. And when I say peace, think of it as like Force power distribution. Like originally, Mortis gods had all the Force power. They decided to distribute it to Jedi and other users, so it wasn't so top heavy, easier to keep balance across all living things across the whole galaxy. Dave Filoni, the power distribution is essentially back to Mortis god level, because all of the Force shielders we know at this time are either ghosts and part of the cosmic Force, or Ahsoka's a main one, Balin's a main one. Luke, we still don't really know what he's up to at the moment. He could just be, lollygagging around, who knows. But they are now merging. Anakin and Ahsoka are going back to Mortis god level. And do they merge? Whatever happens with Dave Filoni's movie and what's going on now, it's like the power could be totally concentrated in one spot, which could have huge impacts to the galaxy. Maybe that's what allows Palpatine to really return. It's like, wow, all this power was here. The brother went and did something crazy, allowing Palpatine to come back. So there's like huge negative consequences at the Force level. And so maybe after the Palpatine conflict is resolved, then it's like, okay, we still need to fix the Mortis to regular Force user power distribution levels that happened. And then that's where Rey could come in afterwards. Crazy theory, but it would actually tie a nice continuous bow over this whole thing. And if you bring in the Mortis gods and say, wow, these are the beings that are actually responsible for the first Jedi. They started this whole thing, and 25,000 years of conflict in the galaxy. We see the main impact of that now for whatever happens in Dave Filoni's movie. And then if that leads into Palpatine and the whole Exegol nightmare and all this stuff, and then Rey plays cleanup afterwards, that would actually be like a even larger canonical umbrella over the entire Star Wars universe that would tie in everything pretty nicely, I think.
I do like the idea of that for specifically the Rey movie, because I've been very vocal about I'm so looking forward to post-sequel content. I really want to see that, but how I've been mentally struggling with, all right, what could the conflict be that is seemingly, not that it has to,
it has to be something. Right now, anything after episode 9, there's no conflict.
We talk about it. Yeah. What I'm saying is, sequel trilogy was seemingly peak conflict. That was highest stakes possible. Palpatine's return. So what could it be? Kind of like the stage that Marvel is in right now. Just speaking from my own experience, peak for me, highest stakes, biggest challenge they're ever gonna face was Thanos and all of that. So that was the peak of the conflict, and now everything else afterwards seems less severe, like not as high stakes as that. The whole fate of the world was in all of their hands. So it's kind of like what I see the sequels as. Like, all right, well, what I want to see more content after this time period, but what could the conflict be that would come anywhere close to feeling reasonably significant, considering the peak seemingly was Palpatine's return. So that could be an interesting way to really raise a larger picture, like holy flip,
Yeah.
and give Rey, I think, a place in the story that more people would hopefully accept.
Yeah,
like,
I think it makes total sense.
Yeah, like
I
think, you know, defining her role in things a little bit more beyond just I am all the Jedi, which I know a lot of people weren't fans of. I think it could be amazing, an amazing role for her. I'll for the sake of dork discourse, a little debate, I'll rebuttal and say,
No, it's not unusual.
No.
Pretty much everything that comes
Well,
out
listen,
of my
just
mouth.
for the sake. No, listen, I just said I agree with that, and I think that's one way to solve. Love you not today. I think that's one way to solve the question I've had looming. Like, how can you go on making post-sequel content where the stakes are high? You know, how can we ever go into the future? Obviously, conflict is always going to arise. The galaxy's never going to live in stable peace forever. It's not, you know, it's conceivable that things would happen, but how can you move forward and avoid what I feel like Marvel is experiencing right now, where it's like a lot of people's interests have dropped off because the seemingly highest stakes scenario imaginable was resolved. So, you know, it's kind of like, just how does everything pale into this everything? I don't want to say the latest Marvel content has all paled in comparison. That is by no means what I'm saying.
We haven't really watched any of the latest.
But exactly.
Like, none of the movies we've seen.
No, we watched Multiverse. We watched Multiverse of Madness.
The Spider-Man No Way Home, but that's very isolated.
Yeah, exactly. It's an individualized thing.
Yeah.
But so yes, I just said I agree with you in that regard, that it would be an answer to my question of that's a perfect way to make the stakes. Holy frick, this is massive. But my rebuttal is, and this is playing into the Marvel situation right now, I think something that's happening with Marvel is, I like that idea, but I like it because I've seen Clone Wars, we've watched all the side shows, I would categorize us not as necessarily casual fans. We're, you know, we've watched everything.
You see our room?
We've watched everything.
Do you see what's back there? I mean...
Yes.
No,
right.
I would not call us this. I would not call us casual.
So yeah, we're inclined to be like, oh, that's sick because we've seen Clone Wars. If you were to say that to other Star Wars fans who are equally fans but just haven't watched all the side material, they'd be like, what the frick is all of that? You know, like, all right, now I have to go watch a whole series. Now I gotta go watch Ahsoka. In order to watch Ahsoka, I have to watch Rebels and blah, blah, blah,
You don't have to watch anything.
Well, the point is, yeah, you don't have to, but will your appreciation level be equal to if you did watch that stuff?
Well, that's what's happening. The brand.
But what I'm trying to get at is that's what's happening with Marvel right now, where they've, you know, it's especially a topic with the Marvels and the theaters right now, and everyone discussing the fatigue of like overly saturated content that you have to watch all of it in order to appreciate. You know, you didn't watch WandaVision, so you had no idea what the flip was going on in like Multiverse of Madness, remember? And you were like, how did this all happen?
That's because shows are mainly for the sweaties anyway.
But the point
movies are more casual.
I don't think movies should be tied so close. This is just my personal opinion. I don't care what,
they should be tied closely to the lore. Which you don't have to have these story points that are dependent on. You have to know this crazy fact. But like, you can have a character that some people know, some people don't.
Who's calling you casual? No, I don't want to like... I don't like using that terminology, the sweaties and casual fans, because I feel like it creates some weird moral hierarchy of...
It's not a moral hierarchy.
Well,
it's just a fact.
A totem pole of, oh, you're casual.
We are very interested in every little Star Wars thing that comes out. Some people aren't. Some people will just go see a movie that's Star Wars related, but never watch any single Star Wars show on Disney+.
That's the point. Would making Mortis the theme in all three of those films, I guess in a way, then they would get, people would become more familiarized with it if it is the overarching theme of all of them, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
And if James
taking
Mangold is the
Marvel.
first one, then
Marvel
we would be
currently.
understanding. Like the sweaties would be learning with the casuals at the same time. If you start with James Mangold's
That's
movie,
true.
it would be wow. Every person in Star Wars who's watching this, regardless of if you've seen everything or nothing, would be experiencing this for the first time.
Chris
So.
House. Didn't you play in a Star Wars fan film as Padme? Casual my bleep.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't want to like come out. That's when gatekeeping starts, and I feel like people have come out and tried to define themselves as I'm a bigger fan than anyone else. Like I don't want to sound like that when I say. I'd say we're like I don't want to ever seem like I'm assuming some hierarchy place of authority by categorizing myself as a bigger fan than anyone because it rubs me the wrong way when other people do that. So that's why I was like, I wouldn't say we're casual. I just don't want to say I think we like Star Wars more than other people.
It's not about liking it. It's knowing and understanding the lore. Yeah, more. It's not that you're better than anyone.
I know, but
the fact is we ingest everything, so we know more. But it's not that we like it more than a casual person. That's not true at all. It's not a matter of liking you're better than. It's what do you know, what do you not know. But it's not knowing me isn't a negative thing to say. It's just some people know more than others.
I know, but I think people weaponize that in this fandom quite a lot.
Yeah, some people do.
People use that to suggest, oh, I've read all of Legends, I've done this, I've done that, I've read every comic, therefore I'm a better fan than you. Like that's why I tiptoe around it, because this fandom, from my perspective, has a serious problem with people weaponizing that to make themselves seem like they're somehow more of a fan than anyone who doesn't own every comic or hasn't read Legends, so that's all I'm saying. I can see how it would look like gatekeeping, but I try to look at it like your level of enthusiasm.
Yeah,
exactly.
There's no
bye, Lord Fowl. Good to see you.
Later, Lord Fowl. All right, before we go too far, we got to circle back to the 3-movie arc.
Okay.
Another point of why I think there's a benefit is I think it's already setting up, like the fact that Ahsoka and Anakin are in another galaxy trapped on this other planet with the Mortis gods. They have set up a perfect explanation for why they are completely MIA from the sequel trilogy.
That is true.
It sets it up beautifully, and there's an easy pedestal, great foundation of why Ahsoka and Anakin are nowhere to be found in the sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
Except on Exegol, when you hear their voices when Rey is confronting Palpatine.
Yeah. No, honestly, the thought crossed my mind. I was like, do I want her to stay trapped here forever? No, but it would answer. It would be an explanation for why she's not present, which I would buy, So, sorry. I agree completely.
And what they can do is the fact that they're still not there means that they're still addressing the greater conflict, whatever that may be, that's happening in this other galaxy with the Mortis gods. And if they're reaching out to Rey at this point in time, because they know in order to take the next step towards healing and resolving the conflict, Rey has to resolve the Palpatine conflict first. And so they're channeling their force energy and vibes and goodwill and fortune and thoughts into Rey so that she can defeat Palpatine. But then after that, the next step is then involving Rey in the greater conflict with whatever they're dealing with. And then they make their return. And then this 25,000-year Mortis debacle comes to a close in Rey's movie. So it would explain why Anakin and Ahsoka are missing from the sequel trilogy, except in the end, but they reach out to Rey because they need Rey to defeat Palpatine in order to help them resolve their greater conflict. And then after Rise of Skywalker in the Rey movie, we see Rey get involved with that and then bring a resolution to that. And if you already have 2 movies explaining the Mortis gods, explaining their history with the Jedi, explaining their power with the Force, explaining the ramifications of when things go wrong with them and there's conflict, you have the James Mangold movie and the Dave Filoni movie, And then you have this Rey movie that comes in at the end to close it all out after we've already got the whole Mandoverse and everything. We've seen all that stuff. We've obviously seen the sequel trilogy. We know what happens to Palpatine. If you then have this movie at the end that brings the Palpatine conflict and the Mortis God conflict both to a resolution, it's like I'm doing a lot of hand movements here, but I'm drawing like a flat line. All right, I'll move my hand like here. I'm drawing like a flat line. So this is like First Jedi, Star Wars as we know it, sequel trilogy. It's like the conflict has been Palpatine, Jedi, and Sith all on this same level. But then you've got an umbrella, which would be the Mortis conflict, and it's like Mortis and Jedi start here at the same level. They continue to diverge until you get to Dave Filoni's movie, where there's a huge gap here, and like there's a crazy power imbalance here that Anakin and Ahsoka start to work to resolve at this time period. But then after Rey defeats Palpatine, the gap starts to close, and then Rey and Anakin and Ahsoka work to close the gap all together at the end. So it's like a 2-point resolution after Rise of Skywalker with the Rey movie. That would be like, you already have this backstory of 2 movies, and obviously Clone Wars and Mandoverse and all this stuff with the Mortis gods and the sequel trilogy going into the Rey movie. And if they make it clear that Rey movie is about resolving all of that, then you don't have to worry about the fear of, okay, what's the conflict? What's the whole point of this movie? If they play all of that out like that, then there's a clear conflict, and no one's going to be having that question. They'll be like, oh, wow, so now Rey gets involved. She's the Grandmaster now in real time, so she's going to be the one. Like, there was the First Jedi. Now Rey is the true, I don't know if you can say the last Jedi, but the final Jedi to resolve this Mortis God conflict bubble. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, no, I agree that.
Should I call Dave and tell him about it?
Yeah, because we just have him on speed dial. No, listen. I agree with everything you're saying. I think it's a very cool idea. The Rey movie better not include Palpatine. Dark Knight.
Yeah, no, it would be nothing would change with Palpatine. Palpatine's dead. He's toast in Rise of Skywalker. But the Rey movie would come after, because in order for Anakin and Ahsoka to work the Mortis God conflict at a higher level, they were needing Rey to kill Palpatine for good, so that there's more of a power balance, so that they can actually resolve the Mortis God conflict. But no, I was not saying that Palpatine would be included in the Rey movie at all. That's not what I was saying.
Yeah,
but that his final demise is a prerequisite
to something larger.
For the true resolution of the Rey movie to actually happen. That would need to happen. But no, Palpatine would have no part in that theoretical plot story for what the Rey movie would be.
I'm glad everyone's hyped to see Barb in the chat.
Barb!
Yeah, no, I think that would be interesting if they were all connected. However, just my devil's advocate, but I also feel this way too, you know. I wouldn't be opposed if that were the case, if they were all linked by some overarching, you know, the background, you know, Mortis and everything. But that said, I think my personal, when they announced 3 new films that were gonna just be standalones, not tethered to a larger trilogy, you know, I'm excited to see some more standalone, individual, what can directors and writers do if you just give them a clean slate? They don't have to stick to canon. They can do what they want. Like,
that was the sequel trilogy.
No.
Here, 3 separate directors. Do what you want, and then we'll put like 3 stitches in between each movie to make it look like it's.
Well, but they all had to then work within each other's ideas. Listen, I'm not in a position of power to say whether that was the right choice or not. To have all the different cooks in the kitchen doing that, but they all were still confined to the restraints of canon and having to work with everything in the past and the current characters and the current, all right, so-and-so wrote the movie before me, now I have to work around it. I am not going to comment on whether I think they worked, you know, whatever, regardless. I'm excited. That's a completely different. Yes, they maybe had that approach, but I'm saying now each of these three directors and whoever is their team, helping them to write these stories, I'm kind of excited that they were three new films announced, all different timelines, complete other spectrums of, timelines from each other, which is exciting. Um, all different directors, directorial styles, clean kind of slate. I think Dave Filoni has the most constraints right now, but he's obviously the most equipped to navigate the canon and what he can and can't do. But I think he also has the fun job of he's not confined to, he can play with, all right, how did the galaxy get from point A to point B, which is how we know it in the sequels, like the downfall of everything as we know it for the First Order to rise. So I think he still has some freedom there to conceive how that would happen. All I'm saying is, I would not be upset if there was an overarching theme for all three of those movies. And I think it would keep audiences interested in all three of them if people picked up on, like, oh, there's a link. And even though they are thousands of years apart in the timeline, they're still connected.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
And even 25,000 years in the past, they could still tie it into the Chosen One and, like, the Mortis God's goal. And we see in Clone Wars, like, the goal is to prep someone for our eventual demise, and that prep is the Chosen One, Anakin, Force created Anakin, to be this figurehead of the Force. And it's like, if that's why they create the first Jedi in hopes of finding the Chosen One, and then it takes 25,000 years to finally have the Chosen One, that just makes the whole Star Wars saga even that more impactful and meaningful. Because it's like, literally, Anakin's been 25,000 years in the making, and then it finally happens, and that's when we get all of our content in the literal most important period in the entire Star Wars canonical history. So to have 25,000 year in the past movie with the first Jedi kind of set that up, that just raises everything else up. Dave Filoni's movie shows that now Anakin is involved again directly with these Mortis gods. So now it's the peak Chosen One involvement with the Mortis gods, and Ahsoka's obviously there as his apprentice, and Sabine and whatnot, and there's multiple characters involved. And then we see Rey, who finally took care of the Sith threat, and now can get involved with the Mortis god level as well. Like, I think it would raise the characters that we know up to a whole new level of importance, Anakin in particular. But then also Rey, if her movie at the end is going to be about, okay, we need to rebalance the Force in a way that this conflict never happens again and it's fully resolved. And then it would tie back to what happened 25,000 years in the past, what happened 30 years in the past with whatever's going to go on now in Dave Filoni's movie. Yeah, I think it would be a great overarching umbrella. And I think it's better to have them connected, because if you just have like one standalone movie about the first Jedi 25,000 years in the past, and it's like, is that Marvel syndrome? It's just like some standalone thing that's like if there's no ties to anything that anybody already knows and understands and loves, then it's like,
all right,
what is, I'm not saying nostalgia and fan service and cameos, but I'm saying Star Wars as a whole is tied together to a central understanding and storyline. And it's like, in order to raise the weight and the impactfulness, I think it needs to be tied together in some way, shape, or form. Like, look at Rogue One. Totally new characters, totally standalone, but it's still about heroes tied to the main storyline.
Yes.
Obviously, Vader at the end is a huge piece of why that movie's so awesome, but, like, it's same with Andor. It's a story of, well, Andor, Rogue One, but it's the same thing, but it's like a story of new people, new characters, but trying to resolve a similar conflict, but in a different way, different perspective. Obviously, 25,000 years in the past, we're not going to have the Empire. It's going to be totally different. But if it's dealing with the Force and the balance of the Force and who owns and controls the Force, I mean, that's a struggle that is throughout all 9 Star Wars films. And so if it's related to that, foreshadowing, hey, there's going to be significant divides, or this is going to lead to consequences down the lines. Like, we know what those consequences are. So it's tied together, and it puts a nice string through all of it. But it can still be majority unique on its own, learning about the first Jedi, what comes of him, all this stuff, whatever may happen. But that central umbrella storyline still needs to be present.
Yeah.
If it's not, then it's a lot less interesting.
No, I don't know.
Then it's just let's just go to the movies for an afternoon and then forget we ever saw it.
Listen.
Star Wars is not something where you go to the movie and forget you ever saw it, because it's just
Who's to say that if they're
rom-com
standalone?
little flick comedy, just like kind of throwaway, casual.
That if they're standalone films, completely untethered and unrelated to anything, that they're going to be forgettable. No. They're going to enrich the world building and the lore. And there is a current, I don't know what to call it, current debate in the fandom currently where it's like, is the Star Wars universe progressively shrinking? Like every character, every show all seems to overlap, when in reality, the galaxy is freaking massive. And that was one thing that I think people really liked about Andor, which is that it highlighted completely different corners of the galaxy. Same issues, but different people.
Yeah,
people who've never heard of who Ahsoka, Mandalorian. Yes, but I'm saying, though, is there's right now an existing issue, but an existing debate about whether or not Star Wars does need to branch out. Even with every single, just the current debate that all the crossovers, the timeline, how very saturated this specific period in the timeline is right now. Is the universe too small as we know it in Star Wars? So I don't know. Mortis and all of that is still so mysterious and elusive that I think if it were to play into themes of the film taking place like 25,000 years in the past, I don't think people would say, oh my god, the Star Wars universe is so small, Mortis, what, existed back then too? Like, I'm just saying, all I'm saying is, I personally wouldn't mind seeing a completely different story. It's freaking 25,000 years into the past. It doesn't need to be related at all to anything in the current timeline. It's 25,000 years in the past.
Listen.
Is it even that? Does anyone have the actual number? What is the actual?
25,000.
It is?
Yes,
Okay.
Also, Danny, again.
Thank you again, Danny. Thank you.
Danny, you are too kind, sir. You are too kind. My old theater director once told me that when a story comes from the heart, you can drop a pin at any point in the narrative, and it's always going to resonate. I think that's what Star Wars has done. Yes, absolutely. It absolutely has.
That's a really interesting.
It absolutely has.
Wise words from your theater teacher.
Yes, it absolutely has. And yeah, that's why you can have a movie 25,000 years in the past, and if it's done from the heart and with love and with consideration for the rest of the canon and the timeline, it's like you're not just making some movie, it's part of this brand, it's part of this story.
Exactly, which shared nothing across would be everything. Forgettable. You said,
but no, you could do it. You could do it in a way where there's no ties to anything. Like if there's no implied like implications for stuff, if there's no cause and effect, like if this movie doesn't cause any type of rippling in the future, then it's like, why even go back and touch? I mean, obviously it's about the first Jedi, so yeah, if you have just by having anyone become the first Jedi, then yeah, instantly sets ramifications and implications for what comes in the future, because you're literally creating first Jedi. So technically, without this movie, nothing in the future happens. So like, I don't think this is a problem.
No.
I'm just saying, technically, someone could come in and do it in a way that, if there's not like Dave Filoni oversight and an agreement upon what needs to happen here, then all it could do is just tear the fabric, and it could hurt. It could hurt the lore and the world building and the cohesiveness of the whole.
What Dark Knight says. It's so cool that there are trillions of planets and life forms over hundreds of thousands of years, and we focus on like 25 years of its history. Yes, it. I just want.
Well,
He's making the point I'm saying. I
well,
don't
at
think
this
it's a
point,
bad
it's
thing.
like
I don't
almost
think.
100 years.
Yeah,
for
yeah,
the
it's a
Phantom
little bit
Menace,
stretched,
and
but still, 100 years. That blip in exactly what
Yep.
Dark Knight is saying.
Yep.
The galaxy is freaking massive. The planets, the timeline, freaking. I think everyone was so excited when this movie in particular was announced. Because and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like they said it's almost going to be like biblical or like ethereal. I forget. I could be talking out my butt right now, but I think a lot of people were really hyped when this got announced because it's like, yes, freaking plug into an unheard of, uncharted, thousands and thousands and thousands of years away so that you have that buffer, that it can be its own thing. And if it's, yes, it's tethered by the Jedi, that's enough to keep it related. And if that's the only thing keeping it linked to the current timeline as we know it, then who cares? Because it's 25,000 years away. Like, freaking do whatever you want. You know, that's all I'm saying.
you know,
Just
could
to,
it still be good? Yeah.
yeah,
Do they have
that's
the
what I'm
right
saying.
opportunity
Oh my God.
to tie it all together
I don't
with
think.
a move,
But here's the problem.
a beginning, a middle, and end spread over 25,000 years? That just
This is
shows
all
the
I'm trying to say.
scale of the
This
galaxy.
is all I'm trying to say. You're saying, yeah, tie it all together. I'm saying my initial excitement about all of these three individual films was that they can all function and work, the teams, the showrunners, the producers, the writers, the directors behind them. They are not confined to having to, other than, yes, like Dave Filoni and the Rey movie, they have more of it, but like, they can all still operate on their own and do whatever they want. You know,
They
as
still
long as
can't
it's
do whatever
within
they
the, okay, within the
still
confines
can't.
of the canon. Within the confines of the
Well,
canon.
that's
If they
that
have
line
to then,
has been questionably too blurry in the past. So that I think Dave.
so now
Filoni
you're
at the
just saying
head-
everything has to be.
No, I'm just saying that you can't. You can't. If you want to do anything, make the creator, like the Rogue One director, goes off and makes a sci-fi Star Wars-esque movie. In that case, he truly made whatever he wanted. He went off and made a movie, whatever he wanted,
No,
whatever he wanted to do.
I
He
don't like
went off
that
and made it.
mentality that if somebody wants to make something individual in the Star Wars universe on their own, they have to go off and just do their own IP. That's what you're saying?
No, I'm saying there's rules if you're going to make something in the Star Wars universe. If you have a vision and it doesn't fit in the Star Wars universe, then sorry, pal, you're not making it. Go off and make a standalone movie.
I don't know if I agree
That's
with
just
that.
the reality. You
I
can't
don't
come in
agree
and
with that.
bend. You can add, but you can't subtract. You can't go against what's been established without a canonical reason and justification to do so. And so,
That's not what
yes,
I'm suggesting. I'm saying yes. Come in, add to it. That's the beautiful thing of the current state of Star Wars, and just what's going to keep happening is more and more people are going to want to make their own Star Wars stories because it is such an expansive universe where you can just keep.
yeah, Star Wars story is the key point. Star Wars story.
Yes.
There are things in Star Wars and the galaxy and the canon that you can't move around. You can't move around. So thank you, Patrick. Thank you. Yeah, it's not that they need to be restricted. Like, no one should be saying you have to do it this way or whatnot, but it's just like, I have this idea. It's okay to have Dave and other people in the story group and other people who are familiar with the lore and the canon and what goes and what doesn't say, like, that's a little too much, or it doesn't fit for this reason. Like, if someone pitches an idea and someone who's involved with Lucasfilm and the story and the legends and the canon and says, oh, that idea is not really going to work for this reason. If it's a good reason, then you got to just live with it. You can't just say, like, oh, they don't, why? I should have total creative freedom. Why doesn't it work? Like, bend the rules. It's like, you have 40 plus years of real-time history that you have to respect and play with, and add to. You can't come in now and change it. And if that doesn't work, then sorry, you're out. Go off and make your own IP, make your own legend. You know, you can go ahead and do that. But this is a whole theoretical debate that we just had, because neither of us, we're really not disagreeing with each other. We're saying that, yes, this movie is 25,000 years in the future. It's not going to have characters we know. It's not going to have planets. It's not going to be on Tatooine.
It freaking better not.
It's not going to have things that are visually familiar to us. It could be even different themes, but we know it's going to be about the first Jedi, which is a familiar concept, the Force, which is a familiar concept. If they throw Mortis in there, and then Dave Filoni's movie's probably going to touch Mortis with how Ahsoka ended, and then Rey movie touches Mortis, it creates a nice through thread, besides just Jedi and the Force, but more clear idea and understanding and imagery of the Force, then it just benefits it. But you don't have like, yeah, obviously you're not gonna have the same characters or same planets. You don't need to do all that. You can expand and look at new species, planets, languages, vehicles, weapons, whatever. But like you can't just come in and like reinvent the Force or how people use it.
That's not what I'm saying.
You know, I know. I'm not saying that's what you're saying.
Yes, no, I agree.
But
I
I'm
agree.
just saying,
I agree.
If it's just one person comes in with their idea and no one is making sure that it's in check with the 45 plus years of Star Wars history since 1977 that we have, then that's when it's not a healthy working relationship. Which I think by having Dave in this position, it's reinforcing that idea. It's like, yeah, Dave's not going to work on everything. That's impossible. There's too many projects. But he can be on the review board of what projects get approved and what don't, or if something gets approved, how can we tweak it so that it maximizes the entire Star Wars brand and story experience for the benefit of the whole IP. Because the more it's cohesive, the more you create things that lift other projects up, that just leads to greater rewatchability and a greater fan experience.
Nicholas Brown, what's up? Says, dang, Grandma Tom looks like he's 18. What's the secret? Being clean shaven. That's what it is. Tom can take years off his age with just
18.
the flick of a razor.
18.
Danny, thank you again for the super chat, my friend. This is also hilarious. I think what Tom is saying, that if you work at In-N-Out, you can't just start cooking your own recipes and selling them. It should all coexist.
Exactly.
No,
but you can come up with new things.
Not an
In-N-Out. You can come up with new recipes. Sure you can. But you can't do it on your own. I can't just
you have to get it approved.
Yeah, I can't just be a grill cooking up my own burger in the back. No, I can't do that. But if the company as a whole, if the greater brand is in agreement that, wow, yes, this can take us in a new direction and enhance it, but also acknowledge the history of the past and keep the In-N-Out brand and logo and secret sauce moving through, then yeah, we'll approve it.
Also, Nicholas, go Birds, frick yeah. Somebody else made a comment. I get what he's saying, because you need something to tell you that it's in the Star Wars universe, but Rebels started out as a standalone, so it could work. Yes, no, I agree with this entirely, and I feel like this is something that has come up with the, this is already an issue that's kind of going on now, debate in the fandom currently. Andor, for example, has sparked huge debate with a lot of people struggling, I don't want to say struggling, just not resonating with it and genuinely feeling like this is not Star Wars as I know it, which...
Andor?
Andor, yes. I think Andor is the first of the Disney Plus shows where people really either, liked it, or there is a significant disconnect. Some people who are just like, this doesn't feel like Star Wars, which is something that is objectively different for everyone. What feels like Star Wars and what doesn't, even with Kenobi finale, you literally have two of the most important characters in Star Wars, but there are some people who still watched that and felt like this doesn't feel like how it would go down for me, I had seen some people voicing, like, even if you have the two most important characters in the canon having a heart-to-heart, but some people still didn't connect with it and were like, this doesn't sit right with me. This doesn't feel like what would be happening in this situation right now. This doesn't feel like Star Wars as I know it. So it's subjective to everybody.
Yeah.
So that is hard to define. Well, what is Star Wars? Because Andor, if you ask me, is some of my favorite freaking new Star Wars. But
it's different themes. It's still Star Wars, but it's themes.
No,
it's
but
themes
that's all
of
I'm saying.
espionage
How
and
do
politics.
I don't think you'll ever be able to cater to everybody in this fandom, because look at the friggin' sequel trilogy. You have people who are denying its existence.
That's the issue of bringing people in with no central
I don't want to get into
plan.
I don't want to get into
That's the whole thing. It's like you said, okay, here, JJ, you write your own thing in isolation. Ryan, you write your own thing in isolation.
I just said I don't want to get into it.
Write their own things in isolation. All right, your thing was actually awful, so you're
Stop
getting the
it.
can.
I'm literally not trying to get into a sequel debate right now.
But that's what the problem
All I'm saying is, no, the problem is, look, I'm trying to say you have a corner of the fandom that denies the existence of the prequels and will shame you if you like them, versus you have an entire other corner
Not
that is
really
like,
anymore.
yes, are you on Twitter?
Twitter doesn't represent all you are on Twitter. You need to get off Twitter. That's what you need to do.
What I'm trying to say is, you have then other people who are like, this is my favorite Star Wars. I love this. It's something, I don't think it's something we're ever going to be able to solve, and therefore it's really hard to say what is Star Wars and what is not, because you have people who look at Andor and they're really uncomfortable with it, and they're like, I just don't like this. It's too different. It doesn't feel like Star Wars for me, which is fine, valid. Their feelings are...
All of these are extremes. That's how it works. The extremists take to social media to voice their extremist opinions.
I do not think Andor was extreme.
The majority of the audience likes everything.
No, I don't think Andor was extremes. I think there were actually
extremes
a lot
by small number of people with large voices. Like if you were to poll everybody who's watched every show, Star Wars, everybody who's watched every Star Wars show, movie, if you were to take a poll, let's say you get 1,000 for relative numbers sake, for every 1,000 responses, you would get like 10 that hate it to their core and are going to tweet about it for the rest of their lives because they hate it so much. You would have 10 that love it so much that it's the greatest thing ever. They're going to tweet about it for their entire existence. But then you have 980 who are like, yeah, it was great, or yeah, it was average, and they're going to enjoy it and they would watch it again, or they wouldn't watch it again. But it's not going to be make or break. And then you multiply that by however many people are actually Star Wars fans, which is millions and millions and millions. But like the people at the ends are the loudest, and negativity always outshines the positivity.
No, but I'm not
saying...
with
everything that comes out, there's always going to be crazy negativity screaming from the heavens. And if the people at Lucasfilm listen to that, they would never make any project, because you're right. You're never going to please everybody. But you have to know that the people screaming the loudest are also the smallest number of people.
No, that's not. Most cases. I don't think that's the case with Andor. I think the fandom was very torn up, with some people even admitting, like, this is a really good show, but it doesn't feel in tune with Star Wars as we know it. It wasn't even from negativity of like, this isn't Star Wars, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. All I'm saying is, I think that's an issue that we just can't try to tackle. Like, how can you write new Star Wars stories with new visions, new directors, new people? I believe that we should welcome new Star Wars stories, new people putting on the director's hat, writing their own things, because this universe is so expansive. And I just think we have to accept that not each new director, writer, not every new story that we're ever going to get is going to feel like Star Wars to everybody. That's all I'm trying to say, because I think it's a larger issue than you can define a template or an outline or a formula to be like, it has to have this to be Star Wars, because it's like, I don't know. Charlie, thank you so much, my friend. Yes. We're getting back
Thank you,
into
Charlie.
it
Thank
with
you,
the discourse debate part of Dork
Yeah.
Discourse.
Catherine always tends to think that I'm arguing. I don't know if my tone of voice, but she's always thinking that
You
I'm in
get passionate.
disagreement.
We never talked this
when I'm
passionately about anything other than Star Wars.
So
though.
she always gets very defensive and feeling she has to rebuttal when I'm not
Well,
disagreeing
no,
with anything
you
that you're saying.
come out here with you're coming out with concrete statements like you're. Correct me if I'm putting words in your mouth, but I swear I heard you say like the new movies won't be as good if they're not all connected to Mortis.
That's true. That's my opinion. I think that that's true. And they would be better if there's a connected through line, like I was saying with the Mortis gods. They would be better. Does that mean it's going to suck? And I'm going to run around with a picket sign outside of Lucasfilm headquarters for the rest of my days because this movie sucks if it's not connected and if it's truly standalone? No, because the reality is it would be harder for them to make something totally standalone and isolated with no through line to any of the other things than it would be for them to just do that. But by bringing the Mortis arc in, it would tie in that movie with Dave Filoni's movie, with Ahsoka, with the whole saga. It would bring everything up, and with Rey's movie in the future. But yes, that's my opinion. I think that would be a better way to go about it rather than having 3 separate movies, to have them tied together with a central storyline. I think it would make them better. Does that mean if they don't do that, I'm going to riot and I'm going to go riot in the streets and never watch Star Wars again and be tweeting about it
Oh my god.
10 times a day until the day that I'm no longer on this earth? No. Am I still going to watch it? Yeah. Will I still probably like it? Yeah. Am I going to be upset about it? No. But do I think that having a central storyline, trying to connect to other things for the benefit of increasing the user experience, would I prefer that? Yes, I would. But does that mean they have to do that? No. I'm not in charge.
You should have a lightsaber battle to settle this debate.
Oh.
Yeah, we brought the OG nature of Dork Discourse out today, folks. I'm good with lightsaber combat.
Yeah, Patrick, exactly. Ahsoka has to have a season 2 because the Mortis topic is a huge cliffhanger. Exactly. They can't just bring in Mortis and not do anything with it.
No, I'm accepting that there's gotta be a season 2. I just wish they would say something.
Because Mortis is, like we've been saying, Mortis is higher on the totem pole than anything in current canon. Totem pole of the Force. If you have the totem pole of the Force, Mortis gods is at the top, right? And the main conflict through the 9 saga movies is Palpatine, right? But the Mortis gods are above Palpatine. And they teased us in the Clone Wars with Anakin reaching the top of the totem pole, becoming the father, reaching that pinnacle. And so if they want to jump up to that next level, which seemingly they have to now, because you have Anakin, Ahsoka, Sabine in this other galaxy trapped there with some tie to the Mortis gods. It's like, yeah, that's a good way to jump to that level, and then you can use 3 movies to enhance the experience of jumping to that level and bring everybody up to speed on the same page. Because like 25,000 years in the future, we don't know, none of you know, no one who's never seen Star Wars knows what would happen there. So everybody's on a level playing field there. So if you use that movie to get everybody on the same page with what's going on with the Mortis gods, then you can expand on it in Dave Filoni's movie and the Rey movie afterwards, and it's a continuous storyline, and it would just make it better. Versus if you just come out hot, firing on all cylinders in Dave Filoni's movie, and it's like Mortis gods, Thrawn, Night Sisters, blah, 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 all this stuff, and someone goes to the movie theater, and they're like, what on earth is this? But if you have like a precursor movie to help bring everybody up to speed with what's going on with Mortis and the overall plot, then that would just be beneficial.
Well,
do they have to do that? No.
Dave Filoni's movie, I think at this point it's inevitable that that is going to be just accepted as a cinematic event that will cater to, hey, if you have been actively watching all the shows, here you go. You know, like I don't think there's any way around that necessarily. All I'm saying is I agree with Julian here. I'd prefer multiple different stories going on so that it's not like the MCU connecting everything. And that's the point I'm trying to make. I think there is a current fatigue happening in the MCU where it is oversaturated and it's like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. I don't
MCU
know where to
has like
start.
30 movies.
Exactly.
Star Wars has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
Rogue One.
10. Well, 9 movies, Rogue One solo. 11 movies.
And
11.
Rebels,
Marvel has like
Clone
48
Wars,
movies.
Bad Batch, Mando, Ahsoka, Book of Boba Fett,
There's still like
Andor,
5 times as many Marvel shows.
Kenobi.
There's been Marvel shows going on for 20 years. Like the Marvel universe has so much more. And it's not even consistent. That's the with superhero movies. It's like, how many times are you going to tell the story of Spider-Man? There's like 3 different Spider-Man actors, like 10 different Batman actors. Like it's different content. It's totally different.
10 different Batman actors.
And it's in our world. All of them take place on Earth. Superhero movies are about extraordinary individuals
Guardians of the Galaxy
saving humanity. It's in the same universe. Earth is there and humans are there. Like our Earth is there, humans are there. I don't really like comparing them, and I hate the comparison between, I don't want Star Wars to go like Marvel. Star Wars can never go like Marvel because Star Wars is totally fantastical. There's no Earth. Yeah, there's humans in it, but it's not our Earth. It's totally isolated, separated from our Earth. And it's a very niche storyline. It's like you really can't break away and do your own thing because it all comes back to the Star Wars galaxy. And in the Star Wars galaxy, there is the Force, there are Jedi, there are blasters, there are ships, there are a million planets, alien species. Like it's a very confined thing, but yeah, it spans over a ton of time in a vast space. But like it's really not, it's not as the level of expansion is not to the level of limitness that like Marvel is, because Marvel, I mean, you can literally do whatever you want. You come up with some other superpower, some new person, you make a movie about it, and that's what they've been doing. There's like 40 plus movies, all these different shows, all these people that do all these different things. And so yeah, trying to connect everything, the connection that they're doing is like, oh, this artifact, this person did this thing in this other show, so it means that there's this impact.
This artifact.
But like the stupid stones, the Infinity Stones. It's like, oh, what's the history with the Infinity Stones? Like, I don't freaking know. I haven't seen any of the movies. But then in Endgame, it's like, oh, they're going back in time, get all the things, and but like God. Star Wars, the connectivity goes back to the laws of the universe, not like Easter eggs that this person did in this time. Like that stuff doesn't really happen in the movies, right? And that's like when, like, I think in the sequel, some of the dialogue was like poking at that. And it's like none of the other movies did that. Like the prequels and the originals didn't really do that. They didn't poke through dialogue at referencing other things. But like in the sequels, like they say like for the rebellion, and it's like, it's not the rebellion, it's a resistance, but you're just trying to get nostalgia by calling it the rebellion. And it's like the rebellion will rise. And it's like some of the dialogue was stretching into that territory of like poking at things. Yeah, I think it would be impossible for Star Wars to do the level of connectivity that Marvel's doing, because they do it in different ways. They wouldn't be able to do it in the same way. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I agree with Julian here. Julian, I feel like we're just on the same page about a lot of things. We also need to just get out of the Skywalker era and go into a whole different area, because I think they're just milking it at this point. But then Patrick Bateman says at the end of the day, everything in Star Wars has to tie into the Skywalker legacy in some way, or at least not legacy.
Yeah, and the Skywalker legacy is Anakin being the chosen one. And if they take the definition of chosen one to another level, which isn't really another level because George Lucas and Dave did it in the Clone Wars with the Mortis gods. Like, yeah, Anakin literally is the focal point of the entirety of Star Wars history. It's impossible to ignore that. Anytime you talk about the Force, anytime you talk about the Jedi or the Sith, like you are indirectly talking about Anakin. So yeah, if they do a movie 25,000 years in the future or the past, they don't need to name drop Anakin. They don't need to name drop anyone. But inherently, by talking about the Force and the Jedi, like everything we know is already connected through that because there's Jedi from all time periods. The Force is always there. It's like it connects purely by referencing the Jedi. You don't need to name drop Anakin. That would be weird. 25,000 years in the past.
Yeah.
That would ring bells for everybody.
That'll
Like,
take me out of it.
Yeah, that would. Yeah, you can't take people out of it, but by ignoring, like, you can't ignore the Force because it's still going to be there. It's a balance. It's all a balance. It's all a balance. So yeah, by tying into the Jedi and the Force, you are tying into the Skywalker legacy, but that doesn't mean you have to name drop the name Skywalker or Jedi. Like, you don't have to name the first Jedi Rey Skywalker.
Yes, Alice.
It's not her actual
This
name.
is what I'm talking about. I agree with Alice here. They should just create stuff that nobody knows about so we can all be excited collectively together, no matter what level of Star Wars we are, which is, you said it better than how I could have, Alice. You said it with much better words than what I've been trying to say this whole time. Listen, yes, I, as someone who knows Mortis and everything that you're talking about, would be down if all three of those films were connected by that through line. But I would prefer a scenario like what Alice is saying, where we're all starting clean slate. Every single Star Wars fan is going into this movie like, holy flip, what the flip are we gonna see? Yeah. You know, or when the first trailer drops, kind of like, nah, never mind. But like,
well, it's like the Force Awakens came out.
When the Eclipse trailer came out, although there's still a lot of familiar stuff in there.
Yeah, it's familiar stuff.
But there were things in there that we were all like, what the F? Like, what is this?
Yeah, story-wise, like, you have no idea. It's all about story. If you have no idea where the story's going, which 25,000 years in the past, even if there were familiar faces, you wouldn't have any idea where the story's going. But there's not going to be familiar faces. If there's new planets, you don't know what the storyline is. You could still involve Mortis in a way where it's like, yeah, okay, the people who know Mortis can have an idea of where it's going, but you could still write the story in a way where nobody going to that movie would know what would happen with that story and what the story points would be. So you don't have to start with a total clean slate, and you can have some stuff that's recognizable, but yeah, it is certainly possible to make that movie something where everybody, regardless of Star Wars experience, goes into that and is at the same playing field in terms of having no clue what's going to happen. And since that Eclipse trailer, we have gotten nothing. Correct, Sean? That Eclipse trailer is like the greatest thing ever. They dropped it, and then it's like, well, there you go. See ya maybe in 10 years when it's actually out.
Oh, well, I don't know what's the status of that? I think it just got shelved, which I think is code for it's never going to happen. I could be totally lying right now, but that's how I'm looking at it. They dropped that on us, rocked my world, and now I don't think it's ever gonna happen. But yeah. Look. This is the nature of Dork Discourse. We came into this to discuss Ahsoka, and look what we're talking about now.
It's still tying back to Ahsoka.
Yes, it does. It
really
very loosely.
Forward. We've been kind of looking forward this whole time after talking about the ending. We haven't really dived into the overall story and plot threads of individual episodes and stuff of Ahsoka. But I think that's because you and I are pretty much in agreement that we think it's one continuous storyline. There's not really much for the two of us to debate because we're pretty much on the same page with everything in regards to the show. Clearly, even where it goes from here with the Mortis stuff, I think we're in agreement on. So there's really not much for the two of us to go back and forth on in terms of the beginning, middle, and end of Ahsoka show, because we're pretty much in agreement on everything that's going on. I guess the one thing we haven't talked about, which is a somewhat sensitive topic, is Sabine and where she has ended up.
I don't want to get into that.
That's certainly been a hot topic, with her being Force sensitive and all of that stuff. It's certainly interesting. I think that they played it. I think would my personal preference have been that she doesn't go anywhere near actually being force sensitive, and yeah, she can wield the lightsaber because she trained and whatnot, and she's just a good fighter. And like, does she need the force? No, she's already a super interesting character without it.
Yeah,
she doesn't need it. But I think the way that they did it, they flesh it out in a way and that it's believable that it happened. Like, it doesn't ruin anything for me. Would that have been my preference? No. My preference would have just been that Ezra and stays as the Jedi of the group, but for whatever reason, I mean, that's the decision that they went, and that's what Dave's vision was. And I think the way that it played out, I think it makes sense, and they did enough to justify it happening. So curious what anybody else has to say about that, because I know that has been a particularly touchy subject in all of the discourse about the show that I've seen.
It kind of stunk going through and editing all of my reactions and post-episode review rants where I was like, I don't want Sabine to be using the Force. I was like, she doesn't need it. Editing that after the series had concluded and I knew what happened, I was like, I know I had said, I was like, it's not going to ruin anything for me. I won't be upset as long as they do it in a way that feels fulfilling and meaningful and not just kind of gratuitous. Well, there's another person with the Force now, And I know a lot of people I saw a lot of Mary Sue going around on Twitter, and I think that was the biggest debate about all of it, which is why I just didn't want them to tread that with Sabine. That was the reason I didn't want her, like you said, to go anywhere near being force sensitive in the first place, because she already was a great character, didn't need it, could have been really interesting and fresh and new if, they hadn't gone that route and they had explored, if she made the decision to be like, I want to pursue this training, but I'm accepting I'm never going to use the Force. Versus now, you have a great female character who already was a boss in her own right, facing the freaking Mary Sue haters in this fandom, and it's like, that never would have happened.
Yep.
Like, she already was a really well-established character. That's why I didn't like it. They leave it to Star Wars to manage to take. Well, we can never get rid of the Mary Sue, corner people of this fandom, because
no one's saying about Ahsoka.
No one ever said it about Ahsoka, and there's no reason for Sabine to even be facing. Exactly.
No one said it about Fennec
Shand. No one would ever have said it about Sabine if this never happened, No. It's when the Force comes into play.
Ahsoka's the Force.
It's when, I know, but she's a Jedi Padawan. No, you're not going to look at another Jedi Padawan and call them a Mary Sue. They're obviously studying at the Jedi Temple. They know what they're doing. But no, I felt at the end, okay, it made sense. Everybody was trying to overcome their own inner demons, inner battle, and for Sabine, that was really interwoven into her whole confidence was shaken this entire time. She felt she had nothing, so she went to go and bank the entire fate of the galaxy on the slight chance that she would go and find Ezra, because that's all she has left. Like, it played into her coming into her own and refinding herself again. But so yeah, that's why I wasn't totally like, I accepted it because they did it in a very fulfilling way, and that also was a source of tension, between her and Ahsoka, their dynamic. So it made sense for her character and the plot, even though I would have preferred for it to go another route. It still made sense. I still accept that.
Yeah, like it does make sense. Like Charlie, Kanan, training, history of Mandalore, possible link to Tar Vizsla.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that it makes sense.
Yep.
It does, and that's why, like we've just both been saying, it's like, would we have taken it that far? Probably not. But who knows what's to come? Maybe there's a very specific reason they decided to do that we haven't seen yet. Like, we haven't seen the whole show. We don't know how the whole story plays out. Who knows what's going to happen now that Sabine is on Mortis 2.0 with Ahsoka and Anakin Ghost, and it's like, who knows what could happen from that. So there's still a lot that we don't know for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see what happens in the future. So outside of Sabine and I guess Ahsoka dying by falling off the cliff and Balin, I don't think there's really any other super
You had
controversial
problems
moments,
with
right?
that? Yeah. Oh yeah, a lot of people didn't buy that Ahsoka would have lost that fight.
Yeah,
But
that's.
I kind of, I don't know. I think they established that.
I mean, I think she was distracted by Sabine.
Yeah, she was
and worried about
incredibly
Sabine. Like,
distracted.
She was not fully
She had
focused,
thought
right?
Sabine was dead.
Yeah.
Then Sabine is back,
Yeah.
but Ahsoka's actively having the realization like, shit, she's not gonna listen to me.
Yeah.
She's totally not. As soon as Sabine hesitated, the second, as soon as Sabine didn't destroy it on sight, Ahsoka's there like, my Padawan doesn't even listen to me. I've failed. Like, how else could you imagine? How else would you feel in that situation? So I bought it that her headspace and her actively making the realization, like, frick, the whole galaxy's in jeopardy right now because my freaking Padawan isn't listening to me. Yeah. Like, coming off of Ahsoka's history, like, wow, the whole galaxy suffered because, I left my master. Like, she accepts blame for a lot of things. Mm-hmm. So to have that realization in that moment, like, I failed the galaxy again. So I bought that she would lose in
yeah,
that.
in that moment. Yeah.
She also touched that thing, the map, and it looked like it literally seared her hand like a friggin'
piece of
steak. Yeah, like it. So she was not at a. The way they made it look, it looked like it was like 1,000 degrees. So, and Balin had taunted her. Yeah, he was using psychological warfare with her.
He was.
He knew a lot more about her than she did about him. That leaves her super vulnerable. And she also was walking around with the guilt of, I left my master, and then 3 days later, he overthrew the entire galaxy. Yep. Not 3 days later, but y'all know what I mean. So she was already coming into that with that self-consciousness, and then to have your opponent poking fun at it and twisting the knife even more when you're already not, not having the strongest will about it. Totally. I believe. Y'all still live? We haven't seen you guys in a while. We're making up for past couple of months of lost time, where we had to be I saw somebody also asked about Evil Ewok. We are gonna be getting that up and running. You guys should have seen me and Alex and Zach in our group chat. We were like, the band is back. We're getting back together. So we will definitely be. I think December is when we're going to pick back up with that, following the holidays coming up here. So, you guys do look great. Thank you. It's our fresh tans, fresh out of French Polynesia. We just spent 7 days in the sun, 8 days in the sun. So, we're both the most tan I've been in a long time. So, we got that post-honeymoon glow. So thank you. I think Shin really embodied the dark side, and those couple of minutes when they take the ship was the best part of Ahsoka. What minutes when they like go into hyperspace? Oh, that. Yeah, another character. That would be one of my other. I feel like the main qualms I ever have, my main critiques are that I always want more of a certain someone or something. So like, similarly to how I wished Ezra had been a bigger part of this, even though I guess that's unreasonable because he was, out on this planet, unbeknownst to us, hiding out for a long time. Is Shin and Balin. I really thought, and somebody had made this comment on one of my reaction videos. They were like, thank you for including your reaction to just their dialogue together, because most people, it's not the most riveting necessarily, so a lot of other reactors, I guess, just skipped over it or didn't include it, but I thought the moments with Balin and Shin were some of the most were some of the most riveting parts of this show. Like, just really great dialogue-driven scenes between the two of them, and he really was a great figure as, you know, an Order 66 survivor who really was like a product of what happened to him as someone who I guess was, I imagine, was a little bit older when that happened, so he like was more affirmed in the faith of the Jedi, and like, I don't know, to lose everything when you're like older like that and then be struggling to, I don't know, like I just, you still have that reminder on your phone?
Yeah.
I just really liked that, you know, I think it's incredibly believable. You know, we see a lot of Fallen Jedi, Order 66 survivor stories where they still hold true to the Jedi, and, you know, when they have the chance, they won't betray the Jedi Order. But I think it's really believable that for in his position, someone like Balin would, like, I don't fault him for his opinion, the way he spoke about it and the way he acts on it. And he's like, yeah, I was trained to believe this was my everything, and then it crumbled so rapidly. Like, all right, bye. Like, I don't know. I liked his perspective on it, and that, you know, it came to light that he's not necessarily bad or good, but he's just totally a product of, you know, having to survive Order 66 and lose everything. A flashback scene of Balin when he was younger could have been cool. I've seen people saying a Tales of the Jedi episode or series about him could be really awesome. So that would be, I'd totally be down for that. It obviously would be a shame that, you know, Ray Stevenson couldn't voice him. But I think it would still, you know, that's a scenario in which I don't mind if they were to recast. And even, I said it earlier, I wouldn't hate it if they recast Balin, but I just think the odds are already stacked against whoever they would put in that role, because Ray did a phenomenal job. So yeah, his acting was amazing. He killed it. You could just tell. It was like oozing out of him how much he really loved that character and loved being there and the story and everything. It just, and his performance was so just pensive. There was always a mystery about him, other than wanting to just know more about his history. But there was just something about, I don't know, he just had some secrets, had some mystery, that I really, really liked. Russell Crowe could definitely pull it off. But he would cost too much. I don't know. We'll see. I don't believe that he is evil. Balin Skull is trying to fill that void of pain. Yes, after Order 66 with power, he never seemed to want to fight Ahsoka. I agree, Charlie. Yes. He was trying to fill that void, trying to do what he had to do to survive. Ray always nailed his roles down so much, it's hard to see anyone else in any of these roles. He was such a phenomenal actor, for real.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really want to rewatch, the first series I ever saw him in was Rome on HBO, and I want to watch it with... You've never seen it, but I watched it after we were in Rome. But yeah, he was great. That's the first time I ever saw him in anything. His first work that I had seen. He was just wonderful in that. He's amazing in Vikings. He's just, so yeah. However they, you know, that's, I guess, one of the biggest questions about how they'll proceed with the season 2. But, we shall see. We shall see. We've been going for 2 hours and 37 minutes here, folks. Maybe we'll round it up to the 3-hour mark. So we'll hang in for a little bit longer, since it's been a long hot minute since we've seen you guys. Plus Tom's been doing a lot of streaming, so we'll give him a little break. We'll go for 3 hours. But in case you guys haven't been tuning in, Tom's been over on his channel, his gaming channel, McBots, which I've tagged several times in my community page if you want to check it out. I know I do some gaming streams here, but he's actually good at gaming, as is his squad that he's been playing with. So,
Not really.
well, you're better than me.
But yes, yeah, I have been streaming a lot. So.
People tune into the dark side to get rid of their own pain, and that's why they have a red lightsaber. That's so true. And honestly, you know, the more you think about it and look at his situation with, you know, all of the dogma and the lifestyle of the Jedi, and you have to abandon everything else and follow that. You know, it's really a rigid, it becomes your whole life. They literally don't have any life outside of it, and they're trained to believe this is the thing, they're doing the best thing possible, they're serving the galaxy, bettering themselves. You know, it's an honor to be a Jedi, and then to watch something that was your whole life, that you were programmed to believe, is like the best thing since sliced bread. To watch it crumble literally in a fortnight, like, I think it's more, there's more reason than not to believe that most people would be like, are you serious? I put everything I had into this, and we frickin' flopped and bent the knee. Like, we couldn't even prevent the ultimate failure. I would feel like, I don't know. I'm just saying, I think it's more believable that people would seek to fill that void, or be like, maybe the dark side is the way, who knows.
Yeah, I'm sure it could push people to the edge.
Yeah.
I think we've seen plenty of examples of that happening, including the biggest case.
Well,
Anakin,
obviously, yes.
that personifies everything.
Literally the turning point of the saga. So.
Don't worry, your gaming is entertaining to watch too, Catherine. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jana. Or Yana. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing your name. I'm gonna be real with y'all. Little side tangent. We finished Outlast, and I said at the time that I was never gonna go near that franchise with a 10-foot pole ever again, but I kind of want to play the second one. There was something about those games that just made me feel so alive. The adrenaline, but we'll see, because I've promised you guys Red Dead, and I'm still gonna do that. I'm gonna be true to my word. 88, let's go! Let's go!
Alex.
Band getting back together!
What up?
What else was I gonna say? But now that the strike has been lifted, I can play video games. Apply for the Scream position. Oh yeah, I just saw that online. I'll see. This is your shot.
What's he talking about?
One of the actresses from the Scream franchise was just allegedly dropped for some comments, you know.
What, they have an open casting call? For?
Maybe if there's still open call, I'll look into it. Get back on Arkham Knight. Frick no. Do you want me to lose my sanity? I'm still regaining my brain cells after that. No, what I was saying is, now that the strike has been lifted, I'm not, you know, we can play, yes, Preston Alien Isolation, we can play games that are attached to IP that were, you know, kind of struck media, like Spider-Man, for example. I've really been dying to play that, and that came out right during the strike. So, you know, we can play that. So there's actually probably going to be a lot of gaming lined up. So stay tuned, friends, because I've made promises and now I have to fulfill them. And yes, I've been putting off Alien for a long time, but mainly because I was told, I read online that it's like one of the scariest, you know, video games. So, ooh, let us know how that is, Alex. Want to go see that so badly. Yeah. Let me know if it's worth going, because we want to see, we're trying to decide, we want to go see The Creator, we want to go see Napoleon, and we want to go see the new Hunger Games. So we're like, what order do we do this in?
Yep.
Yeah, and there was a lot of McBots love earlier, so thank you all for the McBots love.
Everyone who's been supporting McBots.
Yeah.
Tom's been streaming away. I'm sure you might even stream again this evening. Who knows? He already streamed for like 4 hours today.
Probably not. Probably not tonight.
Yes,
but we'll see. Maybe.
Who knows? Who knows? See both, says Alex. Yes, he saw The Creator and he really loved it. You have to watch The Creator at the cinema? Okay. Heard Hunger Games is lame. Oh, Hunger Games was good. We'll see. But yeah, Creator and Napoleon feel like ones I definitely would have to go see, like, on the big screen, you know?
Yeah.
Don't make promises you can't keep, even though they may be the best kind. I know, I've been promising y'all Alien Isolation for like a year plus now, so now that I've dipped my toes in the water of scary video games with Outlast, I feel a little bit more like, okay, I can jump in. Although, for those of you who've played both, let me know. Is Outlast like child's play compared to Alien? We'll see. We'll see. Detroit Become Human. I have heard good things about that one. Bring tissues with you. Oh gosh, for the creator? Okay, you're selling us on this, Alice. You're selling us. Maybe we'll go. We want to go.
Yeah.
We're gonna go. It's just deciding what order we're gonna go in. But now's the time of the year. I love going to the theaters during the holidays. And I love that we can be talking about it now, thanks to the, the resolution with the strikes. So yes. Can't have Hunger Games without Jennifer Lawrence. It's like having Star Wars without Hayden. Well, there's a lot of Star Wars without Hayden. There's a lot. Jokes aside, Arkham Knight is almostly about the Batmobile. Yeah, no. That's why I gave it up. Because when you guys said, when I was the first time we got behind the wheel and I was desperately in despair asking you guys, please tell me that this is just a one level thing and I don't actually have to be in the Batmobile again after this, and you said, no, actually, the whole game you have to be in the Batmobile. I was like, F this, I can't. Oh. Literally everyone in my cinema was crying so loud that we could hear them. Holy crap. Wow. Okay. Well, maybe it's good that we're going then a little bit after the fact. If it's even, I hope it's still in theaters. It must be. It's not that, it hasn't been out that long.
Yeah. No, I'm sure it still is.
But yeah, hopefully. Dang, I'm trying to go tonight. I'm trying to go right now. You're really selling it, Alice. Plus, it's the same, director as Rogue One, which is like an epic film, so. She gave it up to save Gotham. Yes. I am doing more for Gotham by not helping them. And Gotham thanks her. You should play Arkham Asylum. If there's no freaking Batmobile in that one, then I might. I might try it. It's like having the Terminator without Arnold. Yeah, maybe. Or having the Kardashians without Kim. I like these analogies you're pulling out, Nicholas. Woo. But yes, so yes, long story short, tangent over. There will be some more video game gameplay going on. Yep. We got to catch up here now that the strikes have been resolved. Now I can start playing some of the more other IPs that you guys have been requesting that I just couldn't conquer. Although I still need to play. I really want to play. Maybe I'll stream it. The Miles Morales. I only ever watched you play that, but I never played it myself. And I feel like I maybe should play the Miles Morales game before I do the Spider-Man 2.
I would just jump straight into Spider-Man 2. That's what people are playing right now. People want to see what people are playing.
That's true.
It's the newest game. Then you can go back in time and play the other ones. But like you can play them standalone. You don't need to know exactly what happens. I mean, like, the first Spider-Man game came out forever ago. I don't remember everything that happens, but I remember kind of what happened, and I'm sure that they will do some revisiting of the plot.
I need, like, a refresher.
Kind of like Survivor. Like, you start up Survivor, they had that whole montage to summarize what happened in Fallen Order.
Oh, yeah.
And it was, like, great, and it summarized everything. And then you're like, okay, now I know, even if you never played Fallen Order, you're playing Survivor for the first time. You get that understanding of where you're at.
Survivor, now that you're talking about it.
But before we wrap up, if we are gonna wrap up soon, you know what we gotta do.
Poll time. Yes. All right. Thank you for doing this now versus 30 seconds before. Yes. All right.
We have to
What's our poll gonna be?
Poll.
It ain't a dork discourse without a poll. But what is tonight's topic?
And I want to see what the results are, and we probably are going to want to talk about them, so that's why I want to do it now.
Okay. All right. Do it.
All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. First poll in 7 or 8 months.
Pole position. Sean, you may fire when ready. We can also just like quote. It was so tough to not even like quote movies or Star Wars during my Outlast streams.
Yeah.
Emoji rain. Oh yeah, no. Unfortunately, we had to retire the emoji rain because that was limited to another platform that Alex and Zach and I had been testing out, and it was a really fun feature, but unfortunately I don't have it here. Unfortunately not, but I'm glad you guys liked it. Alright, okay, alright.
Yeah, okay.
Overwhelming. 9 votes. 8 vote. Oh, people are changing their votes.
Yeah. It's just white boxes. Oh, so you don't see the options? All right. Well, the first option is a 0 to 3. Second one is 4 to 6. Third one is 7 to 8. And the last one is 9 to 10. 9 to 10 being the best, 0 to 3 being the worst. So top is the worst, bottom is the best.
Is that a new light on the back wall? It looks like it was changing colors. Jerry, yes, it is. We introduced it at the beginning of the stream, but Tom had a little remodeling project. He literally thought of the idea, bought the lights, and set them all up in one day, in the same day. This is how excited Tom gets when he puts his mind to something. So, but yeah, we replaced the twinkly lights that used to be back there for these lights now that members can control. If you like Charlie just put a color in the chat, and they will change based on what you guys want them to look like, because they're in sync with this little thing right here, our little domed light. But this was cool for a little bit, but that's obviously way more exciting. So yes.
Okay. So we got 10 votes right now. There's 19 people viewing.
9 more of you, come on.
So we can let it sit there for a little bit more, but I mean, right now we got 10. So we got 6 people, 9 to 10, 2, 7 to 8, 1, 4 to 6, 1, 0 to 3. So majority,
majority of y'all liked
it. 80% of people think that it's above average, which is good.
I really do want to hear from those of you who gave it, 0 to 3. It's not a bad thing. I actually, we genuinely want to hear why that is.
Yeah, so Nicholas chimed in with, he said he picked 4 to 6 because of the Sabine topic that we were talking about. So yeah, I mean, that's definitely one of the hot topics coming out of the show.
It took a lot of people out, yeah.
Yeah, I think, they could have, it definitely seemed rushed a little bit. I mean, that it's not the first time she's trained with a saber, and they make it known that she and Ahsoka had a history even before the show. So it's like they've set it up, but yeah, in real time we see it in the span of a few episodes. So it's kind of, but yeah, point taken. I mean, totally get it. But outside of that, I mean, was that your only kind of major qualm? Everything else for you, Nicholas, was good? Anything else? Any major highs or lows outside of that one?
I love how Nicholas out here doing our job for us. Yes, vote or join the Schwartz and like the stream. You guys promote us better than we do. I always forget. Like, comment, share, subscribe. We're more fixated on vote. 20 of you here, 12 votes. Vote in the poll.
Jerry, thanks. Glad you like the light. Yeah, if you do exclamation point and then a common color, it will change the lights to those colors. So there's 8 colors you can pick from. I think the most obscure is aqua.
Yeah. Which would not be a color that would just come to my mind.
Standard, I think. Let me check.
Yeah, it's like your usual Roy G. Biv.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, we got orange, green, blue, red, purple, aqua, pink, and yellow. So aqua is like a turquoise, but typing out turquoise is way harder than typing out aqua. So But yes, those are, and you can only do one command every 10 seconds. So if the chat starts spamming, then it's going to pick one and then wait 10 seconds, and then all the other ones will be ignored.
Yeah.
So it's because it's to protect the lights. So there's the Aqua. Aqua went through.
Let's go.
We got the Aqua going on. So yeah, the lights have a certain command rate. If you just start spamming them, changing them really fast, then it can mess with the software of the lights. But
every episode was on the level of if every episode was on the level of episodes 5 out of 6, it would be a 9.5 out of 10 for me. That's valid. And it was really interesting that some of the most lit episodes were kind of in the middle of the series, which is very new for Star Wars. I feel like things usually get exponentially, growth, or like the series will start on a high and exponentially grow. Dave, what's up? You caught us at the very, very, very tail end. Did you guys do an unboxing? I have not yet, because I also did, yes, I received your Funko Pop. I have to send it back to you. I've not done an unboxing yet because I didn't want to risk unboxing Star Wars or media related things, and I don't know if that would have crossed the line of quote unquote promotion or supporting struck content, but I just wanted to play it safe and not do any anything that could be related or risk being misconstrued as, oh, she's supporting Star Wars or she's promoting something during the struck content. So, but I have a lot of unboxings that are long overdue that I need to film and post and unbox and do, so that I swear it's something that I will do very, very soon here. I think subconsciously I put it off because I still feel like undeserving of the nice, wonderful things you guys send me, but I'll force myself to do it in the nature of the holidays coming up. Is the season of giving, so it would be a fun time to post some unboxings and some of them. Like, I've literally had this Rex figure that's been here for like the past year that Sal, I believe, sent, and I filmed the unboxing of this. I've just never posted it, so I have to do that. Like, I literally have things here in the collection on display that I received in unboxings from the P.O. box that I need to actually freaking post. So thank you for your patience. I did receive the Funko Pop. I just have to forgive me. I have to send it back to you. We've had quite a lot going on. A lot happening on our frontier.
Yeah. Thank you, Dave. And
yes.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, everybody else who sent stuff. It is really,
for real.
It is really generous. You guys are,
and your
too
patience.
kind, too
your
generous.
patience means a lot. I'll get my workmate to send you my number, Cat. Oh, don't worry, Alice. I won't be freaked out. I won't be freaked out. Lose weight, Rex. Are you kidding? He's got the Darth Maul treatment right now. He's lost his whole bottom half of weight.
All right, we got 17 votes.
All right.
I think the 0 to 3 has gone up by 1 vote, it looks like. But I mean, overall, pretty positive, I would say. The majority is in 9 to 10 category.
Yeah,
so.
no, I'm happy to hear that. But we, of course, do not fault you if you felt otherwise. And I also respect that a lot of people, for Ahsoka, and I think this is just recurring with Star Wars in general, integrating the animated characters into live action is not always the smoothest transition for everyone. And I've seen people voicing like they would prefer for some of these characters to remain in live action. So we totally respect if, I know for a lot of people it can be hard. It is hard to adjust and accept these things that we love so much in animation. Seeing them in live action doesn't always compute, especially when it's not the same voice actor. Just want to give a shout out, obviously, to Ashley Eckstein, she is still obviously Ahsoka. And I know for a lot of people, it's no shade to Rosario Dawson. She's also Ahsoka. But I know for some people, you know, that's why I think, you know, Bo-Katan and Thrawn have been some of the best transitions inherently because it's their voice actors, you know, and they've been doing those characters for a long time, and so there's no mental lack of this doesn't compute in my brain because I'm not hearing the voice, you know. So I totally respect that. For some people, they just genuinely couldn't get into the show because they prefer these beloved characters in their initial live action or animation form, which is totally valid. Speaking of Rex, he did have a small cameo. I kind of glossed over it in my reaction because my brain just like wasn't there was so much overstimulation, and it wasn't until kind of after the fact that I was like, holy flip, Rex was in there, and I barely even noticed it because I was just so overstimulated. Cal Weston, good to see you. Oh my gosh, so glad Dork Discourse is back. I loved Ahsoka personally. Number 2, right behind Andor in terms of live action Star Wars shows for me. Honestly,
right on, Cal.
I agree 1,000%. Literally could not have said it better myself. I love it. I'm glad that you liked it.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Glad you liked it too.
Regarding Ahsoka, can we say Anakin freaking Skywalker? And I'm glad Hayden Christensen is finally getting the love and respect he so richly deserved. Yes, love the Ahsoka series. Bring on season 2. Well said, Dave. Yep. Well said. Happy to hear that you enjoyed it so much, and I could not agree more. We are in like the Hayden Christensen renaissance right now, and it was such. He's not active at all, obviously, on social media and whatnot, but I did feel bad that he couldn't, himself and all of the cast, but him especially couldn't be out promoting. Granted, he probably wouldn't have been able to even promote the show anyway, because that gives it away.
Yeah.
But him and all the cast, I felt bad that they couldn't actively be, you know, obviously for solidarity reasons, couldn't be discussing the show. So it's been nice to see all of them come out and finally share their experiences and get to revel in, you know, the fan appreciation. But for him especially, he's living in some glory days right now, and I hope it continues, because him and Ewan, as someone was saying earlier, they're still clearly actively wanting to do it, and it doesn't look like it's a big demand or a chore to ask them to come back. I think they're asking to. They want to come back, so we should listen. We should let them. But yes. All right. 58% overwhelming.
Yeah,
one of you hasn't voted.
19 votes. So.
It's all right. The anonymous lone non-voter can, if you can't make up your mind, it's okay.
It's all right.
It is okay.
One vote would not sway the majority, would not sway the polls in any way.
No,
so I think go ahead and end it.
Perfect.
Call it there.
Nothing like a good old Dork Discourse poll to end things out. Now Anakin is a god. So is Hayden Christensen. He really is. He is. But yeah, we discussed a lot tonight, folks. It was our first night back. It's been a long time. We haven't been able to share our thoughts, and lots of new stuff obviously in the pipeline for Star Wars with the news of Dave Filoni and possible Ahsoka season 2s and all the new stuff in the pipeline now that we have to look forward to. We had a lot to discuss. Oh, my mom is the lone vote. All right, don't blame her because she didn't watch the show.
Fair enough.
So...
Fair enough. Very, very respectable of you, Barb, to not sway the votes.
She owned up to it. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. No, it's okay. She wouldn't be able to make an informed decision. I didn't watch. Sorry. No, understandable. But yeah, thank you guys for hanging out. Some of you guys have literally been here the entire time, so we were really excited and grateful to see for the, you know, enthusiastic reception when we announced that Dork Discourse would be coming back. I think who was it? I think it was Cal Westis up in here when I was posting my reactions, I think you commented like, "Can't wait for Dork Discourse to come back," and it made Tom and I very excited. We love you. We love your support. So, thank you guys so much for all of you guys for hanging out and expressing the excitement. Unfortunately, since the show is over, I mean, I guess we could just keep doing weekly episodes and just talk about other things.
Plenty of
You
talk.
know, there's still lots to talk about. We went up like several months without doing a Dork Discourse, so
Several months, the majority of the year, there was no Dork
it
Discourse.
actually, yeah, it
Because of the
flew
strike.
by. It flew by. So in hindsight, I keep thinking it was only a few months, but it really was like 7. Which, you know, thank you guys for sticking through and, you know, being respectful of the fact that we had to cease our usually scheduled content here on the channel and whatnot, and the usual stuff. It wasn't easy, and it made it better that you guys were super understanding and patient and stuck it out with me. So yeah, so we were really excited to come back tonight. Thank you guys so much for watching. Sean, to address that, I have to film a reaction. Like, that trailer also came out like the day that we were leaving the country to go on our honeymoon, so a lot happened right before we were heading out to go on our trip, and I just couldn't tackle it all. I literally was like speed going to upload all my reactions, so
Yeah, neither of us have seen that trailer.
I do want to do a reaction to it though, because I saw some really good talk about it online. So it'll be a little bit of a delayed reaction, but I still want to react. So thank you for the reminder. Stay tuned. That will be in store. But yeah, for the rest of you guys, yes, happy early Thanksgiving if you're celebrating, and if not, enjoy if you get this week off. Whatever you're doing to celebrate or not, whatever it may be, spending time with your family, or if you're chilling, doing your thing. Hope you guys have a wonderful, safe holiday. Stay safe, since I believe there's supposed to be some traveling issues, weather pending, potentially, according to what I've seen in the news. Whatever you may be doing, enjoy it. Have a wonderful time, wonderful celebrations with your families or friends, Friendsgiving, whatever you might be doing. And we really missed you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out. It's been so much fun, and we will certainly be seeing you guys again very, very soon. Yeah.
It's good to be back. Good to talk to you all again. And another fun, healthy discourse session.
It's always in good fun. Yes. But thank you guys for joining us, for sharing your thoughts, for interacting. It wouldn't be the same without you. So yes, what do I always say? What do I say? Oh my god, it's been so long. Hope you have a great rest of your day, night, morning, evening, 3 a.m., whatever time it may be where you are. May the force be with you guys always. And we will see you guys again very, very soon. Bye, friends.
Talk to y'all later.